strategic planning session. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Narenheim.
Here.
Councilmember Lowenstein.
Here.
Councilmember Horvath.
Here.
Councilmember Obaji.
Here.
And Councilmember MD.
Here.
And Mayor Brand.
Here. Thank you, Vicky. Let's all rise and salute the flag and take a moment of silence afterwards, if you would, please. So we got the flag up, Vicky. There it is. Okay. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. So I guess we'll go through announcements, and we start with that. Councilmember Narenheim, do you have any announcements?
I do not have any announcements, actually.
Okay, Councilmember Lowenstein.
Yeah, thanks to Mayor Brand for joining us last week on our community meeting for District 2. And we really appreciate him giving us more information about the housing situation with the bills and the statewide initiative. So I appreciate you being there, Bill. And that's it. Thank you.
From Councilmember Horvath.
Thank you. All's quiet in District 3.
Great. Councilmember Obaji.
Thank you to City Manager Mike Rosansky for appearing at the District 4 community meeting yesterday, and Planning Commissioner Sheila Lamb for talking about the statewide initiative, and the Police Department for continuing to respond to the needs of the homeless here in Redondo Beach compassionately.
Councilmember MD.
Just a reminder that this Saturday is the shred event at the Performing Arts Center. Make sure it's till noon, but make sure you get there early because once the truck's full, they leave.
What time does it start, Laura?
9 o'clock. I knew you were going to ask that, but I purposely didn't say it because I wasn't quite sure. But I'm pretty sure it was 9. Ted, you want to correct me on that if you can?
Well, I knew it was Saturday morning.
Yeah, I think it's 9 to 12.
Is it just shred or is it also household waste?
It's just shred. Household and won't be till March.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I'm sure it's on our website.
Yes.
So, order of agenda. Any?
Ted's getting on and correct.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ted.
If I may, yes, it actually starts at 8 o'clock. So
8 o'clock there. Thank you.
There you go. For all your early birds, 8 o'clock. Get your paper over there at the Performing Arts Center. If you haven't shredded it already. Okay. Approval order of agenda. Anybody have any changes or want to make a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
second.
Okay, motion by Councilmember MD, second by Councilmember Horvath. Any objections? Okay, so ordered blue folder items. Vicky, do you have any blue folder items for tonight? Or
Vicky, you're on mute.
Vicky, you're muted.
My apologies. We do have one, and it's under discussion and possible action on the city's strategic plan, goals, and objectives. We have 2 public communications.
Mm-hmm. Great. Is there a motion to admit those to the record?
So moved.
Okay.
Okay, a motion by Councilmember MD, second by Councilmember Obaji. Any objections? Okay, so ordered. Next up is consent calendar. We have 1 item. Yeah, anybody in the public want to comment on the consent calendar? Didn't think so. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Narenheim, second by Councilmember MD. Any objections? So ordered. Next up, public participation on non-agenda items. This is the public's opportunity to speak about anything that is not on our agenda tonight. Everybody has 3 minutes. So if it's not related to strategic plan, feel free to comment, which might be kind of hard to do.
Yeah, it is a little hard. That's why
We are all encompassing tonight.
we are going to ask everyone to raise their hand if they specifically want to speak on non-agenda items not related to the strategic plan discussion. So we have 2 people that have done so. So the first person I'll recognize is, or unmute, would be Mo Sharifi.
So everybody knows that's about to comment under non-agenda items. We're going to be taking public comment very shortly. about the strategic plan. So I'm going to find it very hard for anyone to talk about something that's not on the agenda because it's pretty all encompassing, our strategic plan, but go right ahead.
Oh, my turn?
Yeah, go ahead, Mo.
Hi, Bill. Hi, everyone. Just wanted to take a couple minutes and make a couple of comments. So it's been at least a couple of years that I was on the Artesia Aviation Board, and we came up with recommendation that we sent to the city.
So, hey, Mo, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mo, but this is non-agenda items. So
Okay.
what you're about to talk about is on our agenda. So if you could just wait a few minutes, we'll call you back.
Done.
Thank you.
The next person that wanted to speak was Candace Nafisi.
Good evening. This is Candace Nafisi, resident of District 3. I do want to applaud the city for allocating 2 new dog parks in the city. I had the chance to take a look at them this week, and I just wanted to share a suggestion. Please consider adding a trash bin to throw away the dog waste, because when you have trash bins in the area, people will use them. And I noticed that there was no trash bins anywhere nearby. It was a little bit of a walk, which is fine, but if you put them near the where the dog park is, people will use them. And then if possible, similar to Dominguez Park, when you guys have a dog dish for the dogs to drink water out of, that would be amazing as well. Thanks so much for your consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have no e-comments under non-agenda, so it appears that the non-agenda communications have been completed.
Okay, great. So next is our reason we're here tonight, and that's discussion and possible action on the city's strategic plan, goals, and objectives. This is something we haven't done in well over a year, folks, and it's something that we've been doing. I was on the council for 8 years, mayor for over 4, and we usually did this twice a year, and it's extremely helpful, allows everybody to focus, particularly staff, on what the priorities are of the council, allows everybody to air out what they'd like to see happen in the next 6 months, next year, next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, however far out we decide to go. And it's not only just a recap of what we've accomplished, but it really sets the tone for what we're going to do going forward. So it's a great opportunity for the community to give us input on what they'd like to see and have staff here, hear the whole thing, us toss it around and really set priorities for the city going forward. And it gives everybody direction. And this will come back to us for final approval after, I believe it goes to a couple of commissions. Is that correct, Mike? City Manager Mike Wojciechowski?
You'll talk about it tonight, and then we'll talk about it Thursday. You'll have a takeaway document that'll largely reflect the objectives that you lay out. It'll come back to you, I believe, on February 8th. I think we're targeting for formal adoption.
Okay, great. So we'll have another meeting on Thursday night at 6 o'clock. So if you couldn't make it tonight or what we discussed didn't cover what you wanted to discuss, we'll be back on Thursday. You can always comment either writing in, giving your comments that way, or just contacting one of the council people directly or the mayor, however you see fit. But now's the time to be heard. This is a great opportunity. And tonight we have a new facilitator, Eric Douglas, and I believe it's Carrie Riley. I'm really looking forward to this. As I said, we haven't done this in a long time. And so, we got some real pros here. Mike and I and the council tossed around who to have, and we gave this some thought. And we're just looking forward to a very organized process where we come up with a final product that everybody can look at and track and see dates and what we're trying to accomplish and who's responsible, what department's doing it. It really sets milestones for us. So it's a very useful document. Almost all cities do this, and it's great to be back on track. So did you want to say a few words, Mike, or you want me to introduce Eric?
Yeah, I think introduce Eric. I just echo your sentiments, Mayor. We're really excited to be here. We view this as a very helpful work plan document for us, allows us to align our resources and make sure that staff efforts are really spent on the things that are of most and highest priority to the council and the community. So we're excited and ready to rock.
Great. I'll Let me introduce our staff a little bit for people. I'll just mention their names so everybody knows who our directors are. Our Director of Public Works is Ted Simon. Our Director of Libraries is Susan Anderson. Our Harbor Director right now, we're in a search for a Harbor Director. It was Stephen Proud, and we're on a search for a new Harbor Director. Of course, our Chief of Police, Keith Kaufman, who's doubling as our Chief of Fire. And believe I'm missing somebody. But anyway, I see that, am I missing anybody, Mike, that's on?
Yeah, we have Randy Forbes, our community development.
Sorry, Randy Forbes.
For Paul, who's waving. Our finance director, Diane Strickfadden. Human Resources Director, Lori Koike is our acting Waterfront and Economic Development Director. I think Susan Anderson popped on there briefly. So Cameron Harding, our Community Services Director as well. And then, of course, the elected department heads are here. Mike Webb, City Attorney, and Steve Deals. I don't know if Steve's on or not, but and Eleanor had to step away tonight, so she should be with us on Thursday. But we're here, I suspect staff will be coming and going for most of the evening, but will be available as needed and participatory for the areas where it's critical that staff weigh in.
Okay, so the gang's all here. And with that, I'd like to introduce Eric Douglas and his assistant, Carrie Riley. Eric, feel free to take it away.
Okay, well, thank you, Mayor Brand, and good evening, council members. I too am looking forward to this evening, and we should just jump right in. Let me just give you a quick flyover of what we're going to do in the next 2 or 3 items. I think the first thing on our agenda is to do a recap of the previous year's accomplishments, and so in just a moment, we'll do that. Then I think we want to undertake a SWOT analysis, a strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats analysis about the city, and then look at the framework of strategic goals that have been used in the past and update and refresh those as is your will, and then get into specific objectives. And so that's the program for this evening and for Thursday. And so why not just jump right into it? I will share my screen and ask.
Eric, let me take public comment first because there's some people waiting to comment.
Fair enough, Mayor. Please go ahead.
At the very end. So let me go ahead and call on the public while they're in line. I think, of course, Mo Sharifi and Candace, or certainly Mo Sharifi was up next. So, yeah, you want to handle this, Vicky, or you want me to
certainly. Yeah, we have about 10 people that have signed, attendees that have signed on. So if you wanted to speak at this juncture, it's time to raise your hand. Mr. Sharifi was the first person in, so we will unmute and get him going. Okay, Mr. Sharifi, you can proceed.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. I just wanted to ask a couple of questions regarding what's happening with the general plan. A couple of years ago, I was on the Artesia Aviation Board, and we made recommendations to the city that I haven't seen any response. I know there's also a GPAC meeting going on. It was initially supposed to be 10 months, and now we're about 3 years into it.
Having trouble hearing you, Mo. I don't know if it's me or you're kind of faded.
Can you guys hear me?
Okay, now, yeah. Maybe speak closer into the microphone.
Oh, you got it. How about now?
Yeah, better.
It's better? Okay,
yep.
I'm sorry. So I'll start again. So initially, I was on the Artesia Aviation Board a couple of years back, and we made some recommendations about, what we can do with Artesia Boulevard and send those to the city. I know there's also a GPAC meeting has been going on. Initially, it was supposed to be 10 months. Now we're about 3 years into it, and the city still doesn't have a general plan. I believe it's at least 20 years old, if not longer. As a commercial broker, I'm working with a lot of developers that are very interested in what happens in North Redondo and the properties, but without a general plan, there really won't be any interest to develop or to have, tax-based increases that we are looking for in the city. So I'm just trying to find out, why is it taking us such a long time to have a general plan while other cities are apparently doing it? I just want to see, somebody tell me what's going on. For example, that Kurt Hardware sold over a year ago, 2400 Artesia Boulevard, and he's still just sitting there eating dust. I'm sure the developer didn't mean to pay $3.5 million and just wait around. So does anybody know what's going on? Why isn't there anything going on? I appreciate it. That's it. Thank you, guys.
Okay, we'll get to the answers later, Mo. Let's finish taking public comments. Go ahead.
Okay, next speaker, Andrew Beauchamp.
Thank you. Mayor and council members. My name is Andrew Beauchamp. I'm currently chairing the Library Commission. And one of the 10-year library goals is to expand library access through non-traditional methods. And there's a letter that we included in the agenda packet where we ask City Council to consider the self-service model open access for the North Branch during the strategic planning process. Open access adds high-resolution cameras and an access panel so trained patrons can use the library outside of staffed hours. So you don't have to have library staff there when people go to the library. The library hours have been cut and the North Branch is currently closed on Friday and Sunday. We think that the North Branch location is a good candidate for this system because of the size and the easy access to it. The estimated upfront cost wouldn't exceed $50,000, but a number of other libraries have been able to get grants to offset that cost. And the ongoing cost is about $1,000 a month versus $100 an hour for staff resources at the library. Ventura County, Santa Monica, and Torrance are adopting this technology. We had an opportunity to listen to the director of Ventura County, and she's really excited about it and is planning to expand it further. There's more details in the letter, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you for the letter. It's very detailed, and I really appreciate that. So next, Vicky. Did we lose Vicky?
I apologize. Next speaker is Sheila Lamb.
Unmute. Okay. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Sheila Lamb, District 4. I have a list in front of me of the goals that I think you will value for completing in 2022. So first is establish a citywide volunteer program that includes annual recognition for all volunteers. This move would build community and will save the city money. Number 2, business concierge consultant to cultivate and recruit high quality businesses to Redondo Beach, especially Artesia Boulevard. This person will need to work closely with the planning staff, so must know a municipal code and planning jargon. So number 3, fully implement ACAP in 2022. Change the parking and the FAR ASAP to expedite the already forward motion that is currently in place. Number 4, technology. If you are unable to upgrade the Redondo Beach system, please upgrade the search function in 2022. The system creates a firewall for anyone who wants to engage with Redondo Beach, residents and businesses alike. Number 5, upgrade the mission and vision. It is old, it's a relic, and needs a refresh. For example, I would look at Hermosa Beach, others as well, but Hermosa is a good start. And number 6, develop a new city logo and brand. What we have now reflects only the past and not the future. For an example, take a look at Manhattan Beach. Thank you so much for all the effort that everyone has done in the past, and I know you'll be doing into the future.
Okay, thank you, Sheila. It's quite a list. You should email us that list. It was great, but I wrote a lot of it down, so there you go.
Okay,
Good notes. Thank you, Sheila.
you're welcome.
The next speaker with his hand up is Roger Carlson.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, sounds good, Ron.
Great, okay. So I'm from District 3 and currently chair of the Harbor Commission. So first I want to say that schedule did not allow us to have a Harbor Commission meeting to generate input for this session. So I can't speak for the commission today, but staff suggested resending our letter from April of 2020 from the last session. And fortunately, I think it holds up really well and still has relevant goals for us. And more importantly, we've actually even gotten some of it done, which is wonderful. So I really want to thank the council and staff for supporting work on these goals over the last couple of years, especially during the tight budget years. We're really going to miss Stephen, and we're really happy to continue working with Lori and Elizabeth. Before Director Proud retired, we discussed in commission meetings asking for a budget to advance the work on sea level rise. So I feel comfortable mentioning that today. We've mentioned in the last couple of Harbor Commission meetings. We have an analysis and a very basic conceptual design on sea level rise from back in 2019. It's kind of just a sketch, a very rough concept. It'd be really great to take the next step with that and develop more detailed designs so that we can prepare for the sea level rise anticipated by 2030. That's, going on now, honestly. We saw the tsunamis hitting a lot of harbors other than ours pretty hard. Having a design in hand will help us take advantage of any state or federal infrastructure funding that becomes available. If we can be in line with an actual design with a firm price ready to go, that'd be great. And it'll also factor into the ongoing amenities planning and just all the other planning and maintenance work in the harbor. And the last thing I'd like to say, if budget allows, I'd love to see more staff or staff hours in the waterfront and economic development department. It's not just waterfront, it's the whole city, it's economic development. It'll help us reach our goals throughout the city. Lori and Elizabeth are doing a great job. I hope whoever we find adds to what they're already doing. And if you can show that new hire that we're building that office up, you may get an even better candidate. There's just so much work to be done around the city, and that office is just a force multiplier for it. It's not just the waterfront, it's the GPAC and general planning, Galleria, Artesia Corridor, the village, just, all the economic development throughout the city we'd like to see. So thanks a lot. I really appreciate your support of the Harbor Commission. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you, Roger. That was a great recap. I read the letter recently, and it's very, still very important and very relevant to where we are, even 2 years later. So thank you very much. More public comment?
Yes, sir. Kelsey Good.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Kelsey Good, and I live in District 3. And it was recently brought to the attention of myself and my neighbors recently that the little alleyway next to us on Marion Drive has been identified as a possible building site for a high-density, multiple-unit complex that the city is responsible for building by the state. So wanted to talk about this and learn more information about this proposed building site because the traffic in that area currently on 190th and on Marion is incredibly dense already. I'm very concerned about traffic, about the number of people coming to our little neighborhood, as well as overpopulation in the local schools. So I'd love to have more information and feedback on that. As mentioned, my neighbors and I are very concerned about this development being placed so close to a high density neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Kelly.
Next speaker is Mark Hansen.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, loud and clear, Mark.
Great. Hi, everybody. Mark Hansen, King Harbor Boater. I want to back up our Harbor Commission Chair, Roger Carlson. I read through the beautiful 5-page set of recommendations they gave to you guys on March 9th. Most of what's important we're handling right now in our big harbor amenities plan that I am proud to be serving on. So I'm not going to bore us with talking about any of those things that are underway. Looking through the 5 pages, just three things jumped off the page that we could look at short-term and potentially outside of the harbor amenities plan. One is the intersection of Yacht Club Way and Harbor Drive. That's been a dangerous intersection for years and continue to be dangerous after we made the bike path improvements. At Harbor Commission meetings, the waterfront director would tell the Harbor Commission over and over, well, we're working on it, we're working on it. You know, sometimes seems a little sheepish and embarrassed that he had to just keep saying. So I don't know what in the world is holding that up, but it's a safety issue. So I'd encourage you guys to look at that as a 6-month project. Next up, in the 5 pages, see a couple references to the white sea bass program. Of course, they were hosted at Sea Lab. Sea Lab decided they didn't want to be there anymore and left, and white sea bass program has not had a home. Stephen Proud and harbor commissioners and myself, we toured the harbor with some of the Scripps people looking for locations, and somehow we lost momentum and that fizzled out. Certainly, as part of the harbor amenities plan, we could look for a permanent home. But, you know, I think every month that we let go by without a program, we're potentially losing the momentum and the volunteers and so forth. So I think that's something that you might want to raise up to the top of the list, just to look for some kind of location to keep them going. Final third thing is waterfront education. That's mentioned in the 3 to 5 year goals. Of course, we have a wonderful waterfront education program run by Julie Call over at the AS property. Have no idea how long she can stay there. I know there's some issues with the fire alarms and the sprinkler systems over there. And so that's another one that maybe instead of a 3 to 5 year goal, we really should look at a 6-month goal and see if we can find some kind of temporary home for her. I actually walked the harbor with her just the other day, and we were looking at rubies and on the rocks. And of course, nothing's going on with the old fun factory. So there's a lot of unused property around the harbor where we might be able to get a temporary home for her and then build her into the harbor amenities plan later. So 3 things maybe if you guys will look at tonight: Yacht Club Way, Harbor Drive intersection, white sea bass program, and the waterfront education program. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Okay, well, I think any more comments?
Well, actually, Candace Nafisi has raised her hand again, so I'm assuming this is relative to start strategic plan. I'm going to go ahead and. Okay. Ms. Nafisi?
Okay,
Yes, it is. It is relative to the strategic plan. This is Candace Nafisi from District 3. 3 recommendations on my behalf. The first is really focusing efforts on Artesia Boulevard. We are in desperate need of additional revenue more than ever. So please consider developing a bid with the business owners on Artesia Boulevard. Please also consider including more opportunities for arts, music, and culture, as well as moving the farmers market along the row. Please also consider painting crosswalks to encourage walking and bike usage. I'd also like you guys to consider greater opportunities for business collaboration between the Chamber of Commerce and the city. Considering that the leadership has changed for the Chamber of Commerce, I don't want to lose sight of the great opportunity to work with the Chamber to bring additional businesses to the city. I hope the Chamber and the NRBBA are actively working together to solicit businesses that both enhance our beach lifestyle along Artesia Boulevard. As a library commissioner, I want to ask you to support the library's commission's request for the self-serving hours. The letter is included in your packet and pretty self-explanatory. And the last thing is just to really also consider greater integration between the schools and the city. One of the big things that I know a lot of families are in need of is considering using the schools outside of school hours. For some reason, our school district is in one of the unique school districts where we cannot use the schools outside of school hours. The doors are locked. And so I just feel like it's a lost opportunity considering the very limited open space that we have. So I hope that you consider the above. Thanks so much for listening.
Okay, any more, Vicky?
Well, we don't have anyone else that has raised their hand. We have numerous people that are signed on to speak. I know there are other opportunities to speak this evening. Oh, yes, we do. Excuse me. Next person up is Jim Brown.
Okay, I'm gonna make sure I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Hear you loud and clear, Jim.
Good. I don't have my usual controls I usually have in a Zoom meeting here. I live in District 3. A couple of points. One, I'd like to second, third, fourth, we need to do something about the whole harbor area. I mean, it's been going downhill since the 90s. The issue of the bike path on Harbor Drive, it is completely on the wrong side of Harbor Drive. That's part of the problem with the conflict between cars turning in and out of the businesses and the streets. Because it's along the commonly used sidewalk, you have people that walk in the bike path, skateboard, push their strollers. If it was on the east side, you wouldn't have as much issue with the wrong use of the bike path as well as conflict with the cars. And the most important thing is what's going on with SB 9 and 10. I am talking specifically about the Marianne redevelopment. The north end is just getting slammed with all this high density growth that we're being forced by the state. We need to fight that. And I think you guys are doing that. But the north end has got too much development, too much density as it is. Our schools are slammed. 190th is already slammed. We just can't take any more housing, any more density. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Next, public comment, Vicky. You're on mute, Vicky.
Solomon?
Hi, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, staff, Eugene, Solomon, Redondo Beach. A couple of things I'd like to point out for us all. One, I think it'd be really nice to create or come up with some kind of a circulation plan. We've talked about in the past, working with some of our bids to get some of our tourists to and from different parts of the city, from the village down to the harbor, from the harbor up to the Marine Avenue hotels, and back to those other areas to try and improve our visitor experiences, raise revenue, and create or rather reduce traffic going to those different places. Also like to see something like the storefront improvement program that you've had on Artesia Boulevard expanded to other parts of the city. If we're going to invest in private property as a city, we may as well build up all the different areas of the city. And if the staff feels and the council feels that's been a successful program, let's work that in the harbor, in the village, up over in some of the other districts, maybe expanding further areas around Artesia Boulevard. Also, to a point that was made earlier, we do have a general plan in existence. It's simply been being updated. So if anybody has any developers out there that they're talking to, bring them on down. You look at what happened with the CVS, it took a little while, but we got the CVS and the grocery store in there, the grocery outlet on Artesia Boulevard, so it can be done. Bring them in, work with the staff, work with the community. Really enjoying the communication here that everybody has. One last thing that I'd like to note is when you're talking about sea level rise as part of the strategic plan, there was a court case recently where a judge denied a project in a part of California because the developer did not provide enough egress from wildfire exposure. And it was challenged on a CEQA challenge. So I don't know that something like that would end up affecting us, the sea level rise for any developments that might take place down around our coastline, but it's something to consider. So think about that, the ripple effects, no pun intended, of a sea level rise and what might be challenging projects in our coastal zones. Thank you all for doing this and the best of luck.
Okay, thank you. Any more public comment?
Thank you, sir. No one else has raised their hand. However, I do have one comment I'd like to read.
Sure.
Written by Laura McMorrin. Dear Mayor and City Council, after many months and lengthy discussions with the Recreation and Parks Commission, Public Works Commission, and Planning Commission, there is no question that Redondo Beach residents highly value trees and understand how tree regulations and requirements can improve our health, our environment, our property values, and much more. All three commissions voted in general support of heritage tree designations, restrictions on driveway apron expansions, and relocations. Some regulations regarding tree planting requirements and removal requirements on private property, and a tree species list that considered threats of disease and aesthetics. In setting short-term priorities, please consider the enthusiasm for and interest in trees and having some tree requirements adopted into the municipal code. The city of Redondo Beach is late to the party in adopting a tree ordinance, and all but one other South Bay city specifically addressed trees in their municipal codes. The upside to this situation is that Redondo Beach has an opportunity to learn from others and create a model tree ordinance that meaningfully promotes trees' care, protection, and replacement. Based on the commission's discussions and many views and comment, now seems like the moment for Redondo Beach to establish its own tree ordinance. Thank you for the opportunity to help advance the tree ordinance, and please make its fruition a top priority. That includes public comment at this time.
Okay, great. Thank you, Vicky. And I guess I'll give Brandy an opportunity to respond to Mo Sharifi about why this is all taking so long, as well as, you hear a lot of comments about upgrading the design standards, really, in the zoning along Artesia Aviation Corridor, whether it's the floor area ratio or the parking regulations, but this has been taking a long time. So I guess, Brandy, if you care to comment on that, you'd be answering some questions right away for some people.
Sure. So part of the general plan update process was an additional project of preparing an Artesia Aviation Corridor area plan. And the General Plan Advisory Committee had worked on that, recommended it to the city council. It did come before the city council. It was December of 2020 that city council adopted the plan and then wanted to move forward with activating it. So in order to have those design standards and to move forward with some of the components of the plan, we do have to adopt some ordinance changes. So we are going through the environmental review of that process, and as well, starting on the implementation of some of the items in what we call the ACAP, the Artesia Aviation Corridor Plan.
Well, let me stop you there, Brandy. Where are we with the environmental analysis of that last part where we can amend the FAR or the parking regulations?
Yeah,
it's really about the FAR and the parking regulations.
Right. The FAR, we did make an amendment to the contract. We're expecting that we'll have that the environmental completed and the revisions adopted by August of this year. And then on the parking analysis, that might take a little bit longer. So, look for that just a few months after that. So this year we will be looking to adopt both the implementation, which provides for that additional, the 0.6 FAR, and then, and as well, some of those uses having office space on the ground floor and really focusing on certain target areas and target uses and encouraging those. And then the parking itself is going to relax the parking standards so that there are going to be more opportunities for redeveloping properties.
Okay, that's great, Brandy. Hopefully that's helpful to Mo and others who are looking to see those changes out at Artesia Boulevard. Long time coming. So really appreciate that. I can answer the folks who were talking about density and Marianne and just density in general around the city. The state really has been dictating zoning and density to cities now. They're overriding in many cases. For instance, SB 9 has eliminated single family zoning in all of the state of California. It's a fourplex bill. You hear a lot of misinformation about how it's a duplex bill. It is a fourplex bill. If you read it, it allows 4 units at least on a single family lot. So anybody who's on a single family lot in any district in Redondo Beach from 1 to 5 should be very concerned about SB 9, which took effect January 1st. RHNA is a different issue, Regional Housing Needs Assessment, which we're talking about the next council meeting. That is required upzoning by every city in California to meet certain standards set by Housing and Community Development. It is not like development projects, it is a zoning. Under the RHNA regulation, you have to provide capacity, reasonable capacity that could actually occur for additional housing. So you've got SB 9, I automatically divided single-family homes into 4 units now. You've got RENA, which we're also going to have to find areas to upzone the entire city. So, yeah, boy, don't I feel your pain. There's a statewide initiative. I'm one of the proponents to make zoning and land use community affairs. It's circulating now. It's a very big deal. And it's resolutions are being passed by cities all over the state to support that because people believe that local zoning should be dictated by local officials who live where you live. So anyway, there you go. That's hopefully begins to answer that because it is a little confusing to the residents. They see SB 9, SB 10, other bills. They see RENA, and where's all this coming from? It's coming from Sacramento. So it's not anything we would have elected to do. Redondo Beach is already very densely populated at 11,000 residents per square mile, and the schools are full all over town. So, yeah, for those of you speaking tonight, hopefully that answers some questions, but we'll be talking about RENA at our next meeting. So with that, Eric, we did not intend to take 40 minutes for public comment, but that was a great exchange. That was fantastic. Been doing this a long time. I don't think we've ever had 40 minutes of comments. There's strategic planning up front. And again, we'll have another meeting on Thursday. So, and some of you had some very detailed recommendations, which were fantastic. I highly recommend you write them down and send them in. And so with that, I see there's a couple, Councilmember Obaji, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to ask a quick question if I could.
Sure.
First, when people are talking about Marianne and 190th, is that relative to the housing overlay in RENA or private development that was approved by council, residential development?
Housing element.
Okay. And the second question is relative to Director Forbes. When you just talked about the FAR that's being analyzed, that's the increase from 0.5 to 0.6, not the 1.5 that we made as part of the general plan amendments associated with housing, correct?
That's correct. That 1.5 will be evaluated in the EIR with the greater general plan update. Yeah.
But that needs to go to a vote. So are we on track to have that go to a vote in our March 2023 election?
As I had mentioned in previous discussions about this, it really is going to depend on how our housing element is received by HCD, because as we keep having to shift what the land uses and the densities are, we need to have that completed in order to move forward with the environmental, because if it increases or changes in certain areas, then we have to redo that environmental.
So since we voted for a 1.5 FAR, why wouldn't we separate that from the housing elements? Since it doesn't pertain to housing, it's strictly commercial. And have the environmental review that's occurring relative to the ACAP undertake an analysis of 1.5 rather than 0.6. So we're not doing two environmental analyses on two different FAR changes, and the 1.5 would seemingly encompass the 0.6 since it's a greater FAR.
That 1.5 is likely going to trigger a much higher environmental review. We can certainly ask for proposals for that, but just that will take longer to get through that review rather than implementing the ACAP itself.
That's what drives me nuts about about government. It's going to take longer, right? It's going to be a more in-depth analysis. So we should start now, not put it off because it's going to take longer. Sorry to get riled up about this, but this is why there's no action on Artesia Boulevard and why there hasn't been in 20 years. All right. We need to undertake an analysis of the change that is going to make a significant impact on Artesia, not the minor change from 0.5 to 0.6. That's not going to cause anybody to tear down their building and rebuild a new one in its place. All right, that's my 2 cents. Thanks.
Okay, with that, I will finally turn it over to Eric Douglas, our facilitator. And apologies, Eric, I'm sure you weren't planning 45 minutes for this either, but as I said, this was a great exchange and it was great to get that comprehensive input from some people who have been paying close attention to our city.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. And I've actually found it interesting to hear what the public, members of the public had to say too. So thank you for that. So we're going to kick it off with a recap of 2021 accomplishments. I would call this a recap of significant 2021 accomplishments. And to make it fun, I thought what we could do is just ask each of you, mayor and council members, to just name one, and we'll just keep going back around, tossing the mic until we exhaust our list. And so I thought we would just start with the mayor and then go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and back to the mayor like that. And I'll open a document now on my screen, which will be a way for me to capture what you say. So I hope you all see that. So Mayor, you want to kick it off? One significant accomplishment of 2021?
Yeah, I'll pick the lowest hanging fruit, beach life. We successfully organized a 3-day music festival kind of during a pandemic. And that was no easy task. And we had to work closely with the producer and the community and the businesses around. So it was no small feat, particularly given the effort put in by our public safety and our public works departments. So yeah, that was definitely a feat.
Cool. All right, Councilmember Narenheim, one significant accomplishment of 2021, if you will.
The Riviera Village had record tax revenues this year in 2022 and is continuing to move forward. 2021, 2022. I say 22, 2020, 2021. So that during that tax period. That's huge. That shows that we've really been helping them down there. They've been successful, and what we're doing down there has really worked.
Cool. All right. So Councilmember Lowenstein.
Yeah. Thanks, Bill, for taking mine. We had a pension obligation bond that we've enacted to help us overcome our pension wall. And so that's actually a huge thing for overcoming our structural deficit.
Great. Thank you. Councilmember Horvath.
Yeah, we joined and rolled out the South Bay Fiber Network, connecting all 16 cities to gigabit framework that will prepare us with a foundation for the future, hopefully be a driver for future economic development, social justice, and just be a helpful asset to both our parks, recreation, public works, and public safety as we really prepare for the future.
Great. Councilmember Obaji.
I think our public works department has proven extremely nimble and capable of doing big and small projects across the city quickly, including supporting beach life, a new dog run in our district, removing newspaper racks, and kind of responding to all resident concerns very quickly.
Great. And Councilmember MD.
Only allowed to pick one, but I'm
going to come back to you, so you're going to get more than one by the end.
So you know what, I'm going to keep it local. I think it's fantastic that we started on the Scout House, both the Girl Scout and Boy Scout house remodeling. It was way overdue.
All right, back to you, Mayor.
Well, we were in a pandemic, and I will commend this council and our staff in managing it in the way that they did. It required a lot of balancing of restrictions and following county health standards and trying to think about what we might do in addition, keep people safe, encourage people to follow simple guidelines to stem the spread. So that required a lot of our attention, a lot of our effort, and a lot of discussion. So I guess I'll throw that one out there, managing the pandemic.
Councilmember Narenheim, back to you.
So this is a small item, but it really represents, the refocusing of our public works and parks and the new direction that we're going. And that's the 2 new dog parks that we've got in place. That a year ago, those weren't on the horizon. They weren't even talked about. We talked about them during the budget process, and now in December they were done. So the 2 new dog parks that we have, I think, are 2. What?
6 months from a vote to actual realization, right?
Yeah, and that's big because it shows a new direction of council. It shows that staff is moving along, making things happen. So coordinated, like you said, coordinated effort by individuals and groups to make things happen. So yeah, thank you.
Great. Councilmember Lowenstein.
Yeah, millions of dollars of road improvements in the city.
I didn't quite understand you. That was a little muffled. Could you speak more clearly?
Sure, millions of dollars of road improvements around the city, street improvements.
Okay. Councilmember Horvath.
Yeah, we actually, to the credit of previous council, we decided to be the first city locally to create a pallet shelter project. We got that up and running in 3 months. And I don't know where our numbers are now, but within the first 6 months, we had like at least 22 people transition in and out to more permanent supportive housing. And now we're seeing other cities take that step as well and using us as a model. And our outdoor homeless court should be included in that as well, because it was all as a result of the pandemic that we were able to make those strides.
Outdoor, what was it?
Homeless court.
Great. All right, Councilmember Obaji.
I was actually going to do that, but I'll say this. I think our police department has continued to lead the way with community-oriented and focused policing. They've kind of switched the paradigm. It's no longer, it's not in Redondo Beach, it's the police and the community as one, leading the way in law enforcement. They've done a great job with all their outreach. So, like in the homeless context, the police are kind of leading the way for other departments in how to engage with the community, gain the trust of the community, and get the community to call them frequently, if you will.
Great. And Councilmember MD.
I think we could commend the leadership of Keith Kaufman and the fire department and all they've done to turn everything around there. The fire department's made some great improvement. They've had some major pressures due to the pandemic. And I think they've done a wonderful job.
Thank you, Councilmember. And back to you, Mayor. This will be the lightning round. Maybe this could be our last round.
We were able to secure a $10 million grant/donation from the state of California to redevelop the Seaside Lagoon. Secured a $10 million grant from the state of California to redesign the Seaside Lagoon.
Okay, get my spelling right here. We'll be all set.
Yep.
Okay, Councilmember Narenheim.
So this is something that started in September of 2019 because of the way some lawsuits were going. We have fully started the public amenities plan for the harbor. And it's a big deal because it's the first time the city has really gone forward and said, hey, what are the public amenities that we want in the harbor? How are we going to plan them? Where are they going to go? We're finally putting the stake in the ground and saying, this is where the sports district pier will go. This is where the Seaside Lagoon is going to look like. And this is going to be where the boat launch ramp is going to be. So these are big. And of course, Moonstone Park and all those amenities. So that's a big deal. We got that going, funded and moving forward.
Councilmember Lowenstein.
We had Labor Peace last year. And
again, I'm sorry, just a little bit muffled. So say it again, please.
We've had Labor Peace over the last year. And we've had hopefully a very motivated workforce with the city. And so that's very important in delivering some city services.
Thank you. Councilmember Horvath.
Yeah, I'll just mention that, again, as a result of COVID, both council and staff were able to be flexible and pivot, and we created parklets, most primarily in the Riviera Village, but we created sidewalk dining allowances. We tried to help our businesses still be able to function, in the midst of a pandemic. And actually, it's probably given us a guidepost of where we want to go in the future, as a result of something that was kind of crappy happening to us. So.
Cool. And Councilmember Obaji.
I believe they may be our first in the city, but we have new car chargers across the city, not just in one location, but electric car chargers, which is the beginning of the extension of this important amenity to the public.
And Councilmember MD.
No, I think we kind of covered it all. I can't think of another one. You guys will have to pick it up another one. I'm trying to decide what's 2020 versus 2021.
Go ahead. If anybody wants to just toss one out. Just
the first resident-led It's the SCE right-of-way cleanup and multiple cleanups at that. There were like 2 or 3 in 2021 for the first time ever.
And tell me what an SDE stands for, please.
SCE, Southern California Edison.
Oh, SCE, sorry.
They have some land that have power lines on them, and that they'd be just a dirt field. The Public Works then plants some stuff and irrigates them. So they get some grass, but occasionally they get trash and weeds. So a group of residents went out there and started regularly, essentially doing a cleanup there.
Great. Other ideas?
You know, we have a third-party plan check now in full working order, and that's important because we've gotten a lot of complaints through the years. The city's understaffed and people try to do plan checking and using our staff. It takes a long time. So now we have the added bonus of people being able to use the third-party plan check program. And so that's a big deal because we can now, start getting things moving along more in the city.
Yep. Others?
We created and filled the position of a homeless counselor, the new position we've never had before. And it's great to have that sort of focus. And the person we hired is an incredible professional and compassionate, knows the homeless in Redondo Beach, has gotten a lot of people into housing. I don't even think she knows how many people she's gotten into housing. So that would be Lila O'Meara. And so creating that position and filling it with such an outstanding individual is a huge accomplishment for us in a very difficult time.
Anything else?
We got this great partnership with a group called the South Bay Parklands Conservancy. And we got a deal worked with them for they can redo the Wilderness Park. And what's important about that is, they're revamping the Wilderness Park. Our staff is spending the time there now, and now they're going to be also working on our first upcoming community garden, which we'll have hopefully end up having 2.
Anything else?
I give a shout out to another great MLK event, even though I wasn't there. But we have a strong group of people who always manage to put together a wonderful Martin Luther King Jr. Day celebratory event. And it's pretty much a bunch of volunteers making stuff happen.
Councilmember Obashi?
The city council has been very resident focused and not beholden to special interests in any way, shape, or form.
So if I could turn to City Manager Wysanski, I'm just curious, Mike, if you have anything you'd want to add to this list.
Well, it's a great list. It's great to hear from the council on these items. We have all of our staff have prepared a list of accomplishments. We could probably spend a great deal of time going through them, but on my standpoint, a couple of extra to add. We had, and Todd alluded to this, we've negotiated multi-year agreements with all of our employee associations. That's been fantastic. We were able to fill, for the first time in at least my tenure here in the city, which goes back quite a ways, we have a full complement of fire department personnel. All staff positions in that department are filled right now, which is fantastic. Really, we accomplished and completed approximately 15 capital improvement projects over this sort of planning period, and designed another 20 plus in this time frame. Our Public Works Department has been incredibly busy. I'll let you finish that. We were able in our budget to restore 2 of our lost administrative analyst positions, which have been critical and I think executing some of council's new initiatives and helping with the work that you see up here. We were also able to create and effectively restore 2 assistant to the city manager positions, which I am very shortly about to fill. Very excited about that. And then maybe what I would do next is turn it over to Ted Simon to maybe provide some of his items as an option.
Well, thanks, Mike. First, thanks to the council. They've recognized a lot of the projects that we have completed and works in progress. I've got a listing of them. Rather than going through all of them, I'm going to probably highlight just a couple of them. We talked about the North Redondo Beach bike path, the area that Councilmember Obaji had identified the volunteers in removing some of the weeds that's out there. We've actually recaptured 4 blocks of that area by re-landscaping it, reseeding them with drought-tolerant grasses and materials, but we've gotten that established and that's underway. We've completed the design for the extension of the bike path from Felton to Inglewood. It is now under review by Southern California Edison, so we can move forward on design drawings and construction sometime soon. We have skate parks that the council had identified as a priority. They are a design build. We're planning to come to the Harbor Commission in February to talk about the Pad 10 design and get the entitlements approved and hopefully be able to complete that design and construction phase. For Perry Park, that skate park amenity has been completed and designed. They are in the fabrication phase and we should be seeing some construction coming on that soon. Councilmember MD talked about the Anderson Park Scout Houses. The renovations to those are moving along quite well. We just completed the roofs on both of those buildings and had gone through some significant abatement of hazardous materials that may have been there, reconstruction of certain walls and elements, as well as concrete improvements in and around it. Something that most people don't quite see, infrastructure. On our sewer facilities, we completed a sanitary sewer upgrade on Pacific Coast Highway near PV Boulevard. That was a requirement of a nearby development in order to increase the capacity of the sewage system. That was completed during that period. The Alta Vista Sewer Pump Station, it's a very significant pump station for the city. We just had a pre-construction meeting for that this afternoon, and construction should be starting on that soon to complete by the end of the year. There's two other sewer pump stations that are very critical to the city, one along Yacht Club Way and one at Portofino. These are both in the waterfront. They have dewatering elements that make them a little bit more complicated. Design is getting completed, and we should be out to bid on those projects in the upcoming summer. Facilities-wise, the City Council chamber has been completed. That is something that we started just before the pandemic, and during the pandemic, that construction was actually completed. As soon as we're able to come back to in-person meetings, that facility will be ready to go. Our transit center is in construction. Again, that's something that has occurred during the pandemic time. It's a little bit running delayed from its original anticipated completion of phase 1, but it is in motion and we should be completed in the spring of this year for that. Pier restroom upgrades. We've done some minor modifications or improvements to several of the pier restrooms, but there is one that needed full reconstruction that has actually been completed in design. It's been completed in bid, and they should be starting construction with that this coming month. Harbor patrol docks, and if I'm speaking too fast, please tell me, I'll slow down on you. The harbor patrol docks have needed replacement. There's a sewer pump station that's there or a place for the boaters in order to get rid of their waste. That has been completed and designed, that has acquired all the permitting necessary from the state and other outside agencies. We just awarded that construction contract at the end of the calendar year last year. So that work should be starting pretty soon. The small boat launch, the one that most people will use for their small craft, that was completed in the spring of last year in anticipation of use in the summer of 21. That was pretty significant, and that's something that we've done every 2 to 3 years, depending on the needs. Councilmember Lowenstein talked about our roadway work. We have had multiple slurry seal projects in the 2 seasons that we've gone through, citywide curb ramp improvements, and then roadway resurfacing, residential and otherwise. We completed an over $4.5 million residential street rehab in the last phase. The current phase is under design, and that has incorporated deferred maintenance streets that the city council has basically provided us some direction on. And we talked about the homeless shelter and the homeless court. I just want to say a great shout out to our team, because on the homeless shelter, as much as the process took about 3 months, I can tell you our crews were out there hustling on a almost 1 month construction period in order to get that homeless shelter constructed and ready to go. There are many others, but I think that's a good summary of some of the significant accomplishments that we've seen.
And one more in your area, I think we should note, is we amended our solid waste franchise agreement to include street sweeping services at no cost to the city's general fund.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Ted. That was a good list. I think I got it all. If you think I missed something, please let me know later.
Yeah, you missed one thing, Eric. We hired a new city manager.
And lots of directors of departments too.
We hired a new finance director, Jennifer Paul, a new community recreation and parks director, Cameron Harding, and hopefully I'm not forgetting anybody.
And we've got, and we may not want to do this with every department, Mayor or Eric, but maybe next, Keith Kaufman, maybe you've got some achievements in the year too that you might want to share.
Sure, absolutely. So I'll start on the PD side. One of the major accomplishments is keeping everyone working during the COVID pandemic. That was obviously a big challenge for us. Still a challenge. This last surge was unprecedented. We actually had 34 people contract COVID during this last round, and we currently only have 3 out. So a lot of work, a lot of adjustment by the personnel. That's been a huge accomplishment. Even bigger than that, and one of the things I think the city should be very proud of is during the national civil unrest, on top of a pandemic, keeping our police officers supported and working proactively out in the field rather than hiding in a parking lot was very, very important. And this is a testament to the city leadership, the council, the mayor, city management, and the leadership here at the police department, really supporting the officers during that time. So they never backed down and kept working. That was huge. These stats, these next couple are crazy. And shout out to Diane Strickfadden. I know that my departments drive her crazy with the amount of hiring and promoting that we do. But in 2020, we hired 30 new employees in the police department. And in 2021, we hired 45. That's an incredible amount of work that the staff is doing to get that done.
So, Keith, go back. So hired 30 new employees in which year?
2020.
2020. Okay, gotcha.
And 45 in 2021.
Yep.
The civilian staff at our police department is a huge benefit to not only the sworn staff that's working here, but to the city. And we have nearly filled every single one of our civilian positions. In this last year, another major accomplishment at the police department, there's been some serious succession planning going on. I'm on my way out here in a few weeks, and it's been a great opportunity to really watch everybody step up into new positions. We even created an assistant chief position over the last year while I was taking over the fire department. So succession planning has been a lot of what we've been doing this last year. Also at the PD, we've had some big events. We had an active shooter at our pier this year that was handled unbelievably by the patrol staff that responded. So I'd like to put that one in the win category. We also had a major event with a bombing suspect that set off a couple bombs in a house on Torrance Boulevard. And we were able to locate that person using some of our technology, which was our drone program. I've got some others, but we also completed an audit of our evidence unit, property and evidence. It's a big area of liability in any police department. We store a lot of high value items, narcotics, guns, and the like. And we proactively, during this entire time while we're doing all this other stuff, we're able to do an audit, which came out very successful. So I'm very happy about that too.
Thank you, Katie.
Side, I think we mentioned about the 10. We hired 10 new firefighter paramedics, put them through training, and then also equip them, which is very difficult to do. Big shout out to our council for the implementation of the fire department's budget during the last fiscal year. There were a lot of things that I found in looking at the budget where it was running so lean that we were basically had a lot of unfunded liabilities that really would have been realized this year because of not having any cost savings in personnel. So the council supported us in a new budget that addressed a lot of things like training and equipment. We've been able to bring on some incredible equipment this year. Most recently, we had support to purchase new auto pulse machines. That's kind of a automatic CPR machine, and those have made tremendous gains in the community. Had the opportunity to do some promotions in the fire department, so we're full with those as well. Promoted a couple of captains and engineers. Over the last year, we've also hired a subject matter expert, and we commenced and completed a major assessment of the fire department. What I'm proud about with respect to that assessment is that it wasn't just about the department itself. It also included our community's expectations as well as all of our city leadership. And from an operational standpoint, we also had some major fire incidents this year. There was a massive fire on Catalina. I think that was my first night. That was a big two-story apartment complex. No lives were lost. That was an incredible job. We had the major fire on Torrance Boulevard as a result of the bombing suspect. And most recently, we had a major one on Broadway, and all those came out very, very well. And I'll leave it at that.
Well, maybe
Mike, do you want to toss the mic to somebody else? Or
yeah, I mean, we could do this all night, really. It's been a very busy year. It's been a long time since our last planning event, but maybe I'll ask the department heads to wrap up with maybe no more than 3 per department. So why don't we go to you, Brandy, next?
Sure.
Let me interrupt you guys and just say we got to speed this up because we're well into this meeting. So let's get this going.
Yeah, I would say the adoption of the ACAP, which is AACAP plan, and getting
AACAP.
Plan. It's not the exciting stuff, but complying with state requirements on adopting different codes, such as the ADU ordinances and the VMT requirements. And we had the extension of the South Bay Galleria approval this last year, so they can move forward on their redevelopment.
Great.
Thanks, Brandy. Maybe Jennifer. Jennifer, you're up next.
Hi. Number one, I think the bond issuance to reduce the UAL pension costs for CalPERS. moving a lot of services to online while City Hall was closed, and then receiving the budget and annual reporting awards. And then most recently receiving kind of the highest honors as far as no findings. It sounds boring, but having the best possible outcome in our ACFR review, ACFR.
Great.
So before you go on, Jennifer, so you received an award for the ACFR review. Is that what you said?
So we received awards for budget from GFOA and CSMFO for our budget documents. And then we also received an award for the ACFR. That's all for last fiscal year. And then most recently, the ACFR received no findings. So it was the best possible review outcome.
Thanks, Jennifer. How about Susan? Why don't you go next?
Okay, just got some quick ones here. We moved to automatic library card renewal. We have a new library app. We pivoted to curbside service during the library closure because of the pandemic. And we have 2 new full-time librarians.
Great. Cameron. You're muted, Cameron.
Still muted.
You're muted, Cameron.
Sorry about that. It was incredibly challenging for us just to keep our recreational programs going, especially last summer. It seemed like the state and the county were coming out with new COVID guidelines every other week. So especially our summer camps and going into the school season, our after school programs, I really got to commend our staff for how flexible and nimble they were with such a fluid situation. I would also say we were really creative with some of our programs, adjusting to COVID. Specifically, we created virtual and Zoom-based programs, especially for our older adult population to keep them active through the pandemic. And then lastly, we were able to fill 2 vacant positions, 1 senior management analyst and 1 recreation supervisor, which the person who had left that position had been in for, gosh, I think about 30 years. So filling those 2 vacancies were a great accomplishment as well.
Thanks, Cameron. Diane, do you have anything from HR?
In relation to all the hiring everyone has already mentioned, we actually had a 250% increase in the onboarding of new hires from 2020 to 21. And we also pivoted to fully online recruitments, new employee orientations and training platforms. None of this is super interesting, but it helped us manage, everything that's going on while simultaneously managing the employee COVID-related response with the constantly changing regulations, changes to sick pay, workers' comp, and OSHA requirements.
Thanks, Diane. Lori, from Waterfront, anything we missed?
I would just say that we were able to launch the 3rd round of the Artesia Aviation Storefront Improvement Program through Elizabeth's efforts. The 3rd round, we were able to provide grants to 6 businesses, 4 on Artesia, 2 on aviation, totaling $52,000. And the overall program, we were able to provide grants to 27 businesses, totaling $170,000. When it comes to the King Harbor Public Amenities program, which Council Member Nierenheim mentioned, we did begin the public outreach to stakeholders in the community in October. And to date, we've held 3 working group meetings, 1 community meeting, and 2 pop-ups. And you'll hear a lot about the program in February, where we will have another community meeting. And then just one other thing quickly, we did put together a working group for to take a look at the outdoor dining on the pier and International Boardwalk. It's a group made up of harbor commissioners, businesses, and of course staff. And just FYI, we're working with Public Works to take a look at design and furniture for when we make it more permanent. So that's it.
Thanks, Lori. And then I think last on the appointed department head side, Chris Benson, IT.
Good evening. I think one of the biggest things IT did at the beginning of the pandemic was facilitating secure remote access for employees to work from home. Completing the City Council Chamber audiovisual and broadcast upgrades. In addition to that, enabling the main library large meeting room is now also a broadcast facility. Enabling Zoom participation, remote participation in the council chambers, so we can have meetings like we're having right now and broadcast them. And then enabling and adding a lot of building permit payments online. Shortly after the counters closed down, IT staff was able to get a lot of the more simpler building permit payments enabled for online payment. And then lastly, shifting the PEG feed channel 41 Frontier channel 8 Spectrum to a high definition feed in probably the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Thanks, Chris. And I don't know if any of the elected department heads would like to offer anything. That's it from.
Yeah, I don't, but except I'm concerned that there is a chat going on, and I don't believe the chat is available to people who are watching it on TV or via YouTube. And so you'd have a separate meeting going on without the traditional limits on comments. I would suggest that the clerk print out all of the comments, make it part of the record, but it really shouldn't be going on unless everyone watching it has an opportunity to review it. It's like you're having a separate meeting within a meeting.
So Mike, you're suggesting the city clerk print that out at the end of the meeting?
I suggest to be shut down now, but okay. I suggest the comments that have already been made be printed out. But you can't have a separate conversation going on while you have the council meeting going on. The Brown Act still applies. So for example, if people are watching on TV, and I've just been texting with the clerk's office, and I don't believe people in every medium even know those conversations are going on.
Right. So I guess I don't see the city clerk's office on here. Is there somebody on here that can shut the chat down? I wouldn't know where to begin.
Yeah, I have the ability to do that because I'm a co-host. I'll go ahead and turn it off.
Thank you.
You're welcome. This is Carrie Riley speaking.
Thank you, Carrie. And then we'll have to figure out a way. This meeting is recorded, so we'll have to figure out a way to print out the chat.
The chat's saved, so the clerk will have access to it.
And in the future, we will not have a chat room going. So there you go.
Okay, well, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mike. Mike, do we want to go to anybody else, or should we move on with our agenda?
I think that 61 plus items there pretty well covers it.
Well, I want to say I am impressed by the number of accomplishments the city of Redondo Beach has obtained, has done in the last year. So congratulations, to everybody. So the next thing on our agenda is to do a SWOT analysis. We will not take quite as much time, I think, with this SWOT analysis as we perhaps just did with the list of accomplishments, because this is not intended to be an exhaustive look at every strength, every weakness, every opportunity, every threat. Really, I think the purpose of a SWOT analysis is to look at those things that are really significantly important as you then pivot into thinking about the goals and objectives for the city. So only those things that are most pertinent in the strategic planning sense, I think, really should be raised here. I'm going to open a document on the screen, and it's just going to be a simple matrix with strengths and weaknesses to remind you those things are the internal strengths and weaknesses of the city, and then external opportunities and threats. This is sometimes called a SWOT analysis. There's lots of different terms for it, but I think you've been used to doing a SWOT analysis, and so we'll stick with that format for this. So I think in order to kind of keep things moving at a clip, let's start with strengths. And again, I would ask, again, much as we just did, one at a time, starting with the mayor, just one significant strength. And let's just try to do this in one round. If we have to do 2 rounds, we can, but let's just see if you can identify the most important strengths in one round going through all 6 of you. So Mayor Brand.
I'll just say highly capable, extremely professional public safety services. That's number one of any city. So I'll just say police and fire is our strength.
All right, let me move on to Councilmember Nierenheim.
I think we have department heads that are really able to capture the abilities to fix problems in dynamic ways, if given the tools and the leeway.
Okay. And then Councilmember Lowenstein.
Vibrant and diverse tax base.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Horvath.
I was going to say that we have a very well-seasoned staff, but I think number 1 and 2 kind of cover that. So I'll just say a diverse mix of resident needs.
A diverse mix of resident
needs.
Can you explain that just a little bit? I don't quite get that one.
Sure. I think, we don't all think alike. And so therefore you have a diverse mix of thoughts and needs coming from residents that helps guide what the city is able to provide in terms of services.
Okay. And then Councilmember Obaji.
We have an energized and motivated city manager.
Cool. And Councilmember MD.
Well, kind of banking off number 4, I think how I would say it is more that we are truly a complete services city. So we have everything from senior clubs to very engaged public works that takes care of everything. We're definitely a complete services city that we're not doing anything in a small way.
So are there any strengths that anybody would shout out have been missed, significant strengths? All right, let me go to weaknesses. Let me ask about weaknesses. Let me start with the other end of the spectrum. So, well, not the other end of the spectrum, but Councilmember MD, let me start with you if I can.
I think our weakness is that we tend to work in silos.
Councilmember Obaji.
Failure to move on a clear and obvious opportunity.
Failure to move?
On a clear and obvious opportunity.
And is this one in particular, or is this in general a statement
Artesia
about
Boulevard, increasing the floor area ratio.
This is the FAR, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then Councilmember Horvath.
I would say as an old city, that comes with a variety of problems and challenges that we have to overcome. And so we end up spreading ourselves too thin trying to address all the issues that are at hand.
Is this about infrastructure, Councilmember, or is this more than infrastructure?
I think that primarily it's going to be an infrastructure, but that can spread out to other services as well. It's kind of the backside of my strength.
Okay. But do I capture it correctly if I say aging infrastructure, or do you want to frame it differently than that?
I think you could say aging infrastructure and just the fact that we are historically an older city brings a lot of challenges.
Councilmember Lowenstein.
Yeah, high cost of living and expensive to relocate to.
Okay. And Councilmember Nairnheim.
Not enough staff, not enough resources for staff.
So for staff or staff?
Either or, for and or staff.
Okay. And Mayor Brand.
I'd say we're weak on environmental issues. I hate to say it. Whether, we haven't really developed a plan for sea level rise. We're behind on electric cars, charging stations. We talk about increasing open space. We really haven't. Finding ways to, better address whether it's, use of plastics, whether it's waste use. I just think there's a lot of improvements that could be had in the environmental side of things.
So does anybody see a significant weakness that we haven't called out so far?
Yeah, we're overbuilt. There's no land left in town. So we're overbuilt. And then the second thing I would say is, while we've gotten a lot of capital projects done, they take a long time. So projects take a long time to get done.
All right. So let me move on to opportunities. So again, these are the things that are outside of.
I have another one, Eric. I have another weakness. And I really think that's outreach to the public. I think communication from the city to the public, or website, that sort of thing could be much, much improved. Looking at other cities and the communication that goes on from the city to the public needs a lot of work.
All right, moving on to opportunities. Again, these would be things outside of your direct span of control, but things that you see coming your way that are opportunities. Mayor, let me start with you here.
Well, I'll say, it's a big one. I'm afraid to steal it from Todd to say the waterfront. Maybe I'll be.
Go ahead and say it.
Go ahead and say it. Todd and I will chime in. It's the waterfront. I mean, it's just a huge, huge opportunity there. Whether it's, south of Portofino Way, north of Portofino Way, there's a huge opportunity down there. And everybody from town sees it. And it's really our chance to do something really big and bring more revenue to the city and design it in a way that the public really appreciates.
Councilmember Nairnheim.
Our businesses our business district or business areas are ready to explode or ready to do really well. It's whether Riviera Village, Artesia, the Harbor, South Bay Galleria, they're all on the cusp of really expanding and doing really cool things.
Say why. What's the opportunity that they see that's going to cause them to explode?
Well, because of the way that the market is going with, retail, down Riviera Village has a new downtown. It's got the downtown feel, right? And if we invest correctly, that'll recapture people that are coming there. We are capturing people there now, but we even more so do it later. The harbor with the revitalization, tremendous amount of business opportunities down there. Riviera, Artesia Boulevard, with all the work we've done. And if we get them to really pull some things up on their own, take some responsibility, then they'll be even in a better spot to move forward. And of course, the South Bay Galleria, they've got plans to completely revamp the entire area.
Okay, great, thank you. Councilmember Lowenstein, another opportunity you see?
Yeah, proximity to and potential expansion of Silicon Beach.
Councilmember Horvath.
Yeah, it's number 2 hits on it, but I've always believed that Artesia and aviation are our diamond in the rough here.
Okay, Councilmember Obaji.
I'd say the reason that the diamonds are still in the rough is because we've got an outdated general plan. Thank you for that, Ms. Lamb, and municipal codes.
So the opportunity is to update the general plan codes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Councilmember MD.
You can go in a different direction. With the upgrade of the Manhattan Beach Boulevard coming in, if we can convince the water district to help us bring the purple pipe, which is recycled water, down that route, we can water a lot of outdoor space and turn them into a park-like feel very nicely. In that same project, we have an opportunity to expand and connect bike paths. So purple pipe and expansion of bike paths in that area.
The area again is which council?
Manhattan Beach Boulevard.
Are there other opportunities that members of the council or mayor you see that aren't here?
2028 Olympics coming to LA.
We have an opportunity to negotiate a longer term contract and a better term contract with Beach Life.
I would say many of the changes that we're discussing here has the opportunity to attract and or retain business.
But that kind of dovetails with number 2, right?
Could. It depends on,
How about revitalization of the Galleria brings potentially new tax base, increased tax base?
Number 2.
Yeah.
Again, so yeah, part of 2,
Number 2.
right?
Yep.
Anything else? Let's move to threats then. And well, Councilmember MD, once again, let me turn to you and kick off this question of what are the threats you see?
Well, I know what the other council members are going to say, so I'm not going to take that away from you guys on the state's housing initiatives. I'm going to let you guys say that one. I'm going to say the biggest threat we have is the changing. I was going to say the changing retail, but really it's about making sure that workers can live nearby. Attracting a good work base in this area, employee base, both for the city and for our businesses.
So attracting
workers for both the city and our companies in the area. Because through affordable housing or whatever's attracting them from being here. No one wants to have a 3-hour commute.
Okay. So Councilmember Obaji, you want to go next?
Increase influx of unhoused people and limited resources to serve them.
Councilmember Horvath?
Yeah, I would say the potential special interest cannabis ballot initiative.
Would that be a local initiative or a statewide initiative?
That's going to be a local one.
And then Councilmember Lowenstein?
Political instability at the federal and state level.
You want to talk a little bit about how that affects your city?
Yeah, the inability of people to get along. It's very tough. I think it makes it tough to govern.
It affects funding.
And it affects funding as well. Exactly.
Okay, cool. Councilmember Narenheim?
Revenues, tax revenues, and grant revenues are two major sources of funds so that we can actually do things. So if the economy goes down, taxes go down. If political instability, as Councilmember Lowenstein was just talking about, us not getting grants, if those types of grants we don't get or are not available anymore, that prevents us from moving forward in many different places in the city, staffing included.
I'm unclear what political instability means.
Well, if we don't, at the federal level, I would say the recovery acts that are passing left and right, if they don't get passed, like the last one just didn't get passed, then there's grants in there that we not eligible or not available anymore to us. That's the only thing I could say on the federal level. And then at a state level, I would also say they, rather than sending money towards us, they want to send money inland.
What about government shutdowns? That affects us.
Okay.
We've had that.
Thanks for the clarification.
Sure.
And I would also add to that, most importantly, we lost Janice Hahn as our county supervisor. Redistricting, yeah.
Yeah, but I love Janice Hahn, but Holly Mitchell's great. Have you ever met her? She's wonderful. Dynamic.
She's great, but we got to restart that whole conversation, yeah.
So you're going to add redistricting as a threat here, or are you just adding kind of a nuance to political instability?
It's a nuance.
Yeah. All right. So, Mayor, what do you see as a threat?
Well, as Laura said, the housing bill is coming out of Sacramento. We're going to see likely destruction of our single family neighborhoods over the long haul as people get boxes instead of new neighbors. You're going to get a box with 4 units and there'll be rentals. And that's going to really hit our ability to balance our books because residential development doesn't pay. So, and the next one is inflation. If inflation hits, it's going to be a real problem.
Nation has hit.
We haven't. Well, yeah, exactly. If it continues, our employees are going to want more money. Costs of things for us to do is going to go up. Our revenue base is fixed. So we really have no way to raise prices and our costs are just going to go up. So it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a big problem.
Anything else that we're missing here, folks? Anything that you would add to this list?
Climate change.
So let's briefly recap and just kind of appreciate what's here again with the idea that we're going to pivot now to thinking about the goals that the city has and what it wants to see in the way of strategic objectives. So we can see the strengths here. I won't read them, but just appreciating that the strengths really are in the people you have and the vibrancy of your tax base and the quality of your staff. The weaknesses are here. The opportunities, it appears you have many opportunities in terms of potential economic growth engines for the city. Threats appear to be also fairly numerous in terms of both the threats that affect your ability to attract good workers, homeless, the ability to not get things done in the state, or if you want things to get done, they don't get done in a way that helps you in the city of Redondo, inflation, climate change, potential economic downturn. Okay, am I missing anything here? Are we missing anything before we conclude the SWOT analysis? Mike, can I ask you if you have anything to add here real quick?
No, I think this is an accurate and comprehensive list, and appreciate hearing the council's thoughts on all these.
All right, let's stop sharing just briefly here. Queue up another document real quickly. So where I want to go next, and where I think you've been used to going next, is to really looking at that matrix with the goals and objectives. I want to first talk about the time horizon for the city's goals. In the past, you've set 3-year goals with 6-month objectives and measurable results within those that you can hold people accountable for. And I think in talking with each of you and within my own expertise as a strategic planner, I think, and given again the dynamics of a city, I see other cities and other similar kinds of entities adopting not so much a 5-year frame anymore or a 10-year time frame anymore, but really a shorter time frame in which you can really sort of see to the end of it. And so you've been traditionally doing 3-year goals and then 6-month objectives within that. And so I just want to ascertain and make sure that people seem generally fine with that framework as we go forward. And while you think about that, let me just ask you to think also about the goal framework itself. And so I'm going to call up another document here that is just a reflection of kind of what your previous goals were and then what may be possibly a way to reframe them. And again, this is just me looking at your goals and trying to help you be clear. So these previous goals, modernize city communication systems. I think one way to reframe that would be to say modernize the city's internal and external communications. I know that you all have issues with regard to the things that have to do with external facing communications, your website, your branding, your application processes, the efficiency of city government, as well as the coordination and resiliency within city government. One of you mentioned the siloed nature of city government at Redondo. So this one would be an all-inclusive goal that looks at both cities, both the internal and external communications. You had vitalize the waterfront, Artesia corridor, Riviera Village, and South Bay Galleria. I suggested reframing to say vitalize core commercial areas of the city, which we can put in parentheses, or just we already know that they're the waterfront, Artesia corridor, Riviera Village. Maybe the Galleria belongs there, but that seems a little bit different than the others here in terms of the way the city can leverage investments in them. Increasing environmental sustainability. You had ensure sustainability, livability, and health by completing the general plan, update, et cetera. I thought it could be shortened to just increase environmental sustainability, and within that, you could have livability, health, that parentheses doesn't belong there, the tree ordinance, potential tree ordinance, enforcing environmental regs, bike lanes, recycled water, all those things could be bundled into this third goal. You had a fourth goal previously about assessing, prioritizing, and planning for park and open space acquisition, et cetera. I thought maybe if we just said invest in the city's infrastructure, again, this would include parks, buildings, facilities, open space. I know some of you were interested in multimodal roadways, broadband connectivity. And then lastly, maintain a high level of public safety with public engagement. Maintain a high level of public safety just felt to me like a crisper way of saying it. So two questions on the table to briefly discuss. One is, are we good with the idea of continuing with 3-year goals? And secondly, are we good with this potential reframing of the goals? Or if not, what would you suggest as potential ways to reframe Eric's reframing of the goals? So Mayor, let me start with you and just pose those two questions to you to answer if I could.
3 years. Yeah, we've in the past had 10-year goals. I was never a big fan of those. We can cover 10-year goals, big ones like, addressing sea level rise, that sort of thing, as we go along. And I just think they're too long. I think you see that in the letter from the Harbor Commission that, this council can turn over every 2 years. But there are, I guess I like going to 3-year goals. Could potentially do 5, but I'm okay with 3.
Which is what you've had before. And so you're saying, let's stick with what we've had.
Yeah. And I kind of thought our strategic planning also looked out, a year. We always did planning for a year. What is staff going to do over the next year? And what can they accomplish over the next year? And what needs to be put out? We still want to get something done, but it's not going to get done in a year. So I think a year and 3-year goals are pretty appropriate. I don't see a year in here. So
well, this would be, I think, within the 3-year goals, which you've done in the past, is you've established 6-month objectives, and then in some cases you've put time periods on them that are longer than 6 months to make it clear that it's a year goal. So I would imagine as we go through the specific objectives, you can identify the time frame for them, whether it's 6 months or a year.
Okay, so you're suggesting we're planning out 3 years, and then as we do that, we just get assessment from staff on how long that will take. So it may happen in 9 months or something.
Exactly.
Or a year and a half, but they're 3-year goals.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and then the way you've framed it, modernize communications, vitalize core commercial areas, increase environmental sustainability. I mean, it's the title of them are just kind of vanilla, right? Modernize cities, communications, vitalize our core commercial areas. And I think more what people are going to be interested in is what specifically come under those, and where do big issues go? Like trying to get a park at the AS site. Where does this go?
Yeah.
I suppose it could go under 4.
It'll go under 4.
Yeah. So, yeah. It's just kind of like, what I would expect any city to have here. Sure.
So, yeah, just a reminder that the framework of goals is really intended just to be, for you guys, kind of a scaffolding arrangement so that you can find a place to put all of the things that are pertinent to your strategic plan. So this is very similar to what you had before. I'm just trying to suggest some gentle reframing. So, Councilmember Narenheim, as you think about both the length of time we're talking about as well as this framework of goals, what are your thoughts?
So yeah, I like 3, maybe 3 and 5, 3/5, 3 to 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then within that, as we tactically try to attack these 3 to 5 year goals, we have 6 months, a year, 3 year, 5 year kind of stepping points where they're measured at.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say as the first one, I wrote down this afternoon realignment of the city forward-facing communication and communication platforms. So, to me, I wanted to break down number 1 as, you have the different platforms, website, branding, application, processes, efficiency. Those are the different platforms, Facebook, TikTok, whatever those platforms are, the website, Zoom. And that's a platform, right? And then really realigning the forward-facing communication. So from each department, and our city manager is bringing on a PIO kind of position, and what we're saying to the public, right? Rather than saying this is what's going to happen, say it in a manner of we'd like to get your input before we start making these decisions, such as the budget coming up. We have 2 workshops coming up. So that's a whole different policy objective in terms of we're getting input first, and then we're on a new platform, and then we're kind of going down this path. So I think that to me is important.
So let me just be clear on what you're saying. So you're suggesting breaking this first one into two goals, realigning the city's public-facing platforms and realigning the city's public engagement processes. Am I hearing you correctly?
Yeah.
Okay, that's helpful.
Number 2, I kind of broke down number 2 a little bit separately, and I would like to keep the South Bay Galleria separate, because South Bay Galleria is a private landowner and a private land. We can't do anything other than approve their project. So we can't really tell them or do anything. We don't build anything. We only build infrastructure. We don't build housing or commercial or industry. So number 2, I put down as business district creation and business support. And what I mean by that is you have in here the waterfront, Artesia Corridor, Riviera Village. And these, to me, I look at Sacramento as a great opportunity, great blueprint, because there's so many different types of business districts, from landowners to retailers to restaurateurs, and different areas of the town. They have different districts, and these districts are, run by a nonprofit that gives them resources and takes real responsibility for what they're doing.
Well, Councilmember, I want to just break in and just ask a real quick question. So
Yeah.
it feels to me like what you're doing is starting to put together what you think are the strategies within each of these goals. And I want to make sure we're doing what I'm asking you to do at this point, which is just to say, yes, let's use this framework that I'm suggesting as a basic framework of goals. We can tweak it once we've had a chance to look at your objectives, look at your strategies, if we don't think the language of the goals is correct.
Okay.
But my point right now is let's just get an agreement on the basic framework we're going to use of these 5 goals. And then let's get into your thoughts about, okay, what are the driving strategies that we want to implement to make those goals happen? And I feel like already you're into kind of like, okay, I want to see some focus on business district creation, business district support. That feels like a strategy.
I didn't mean to have you see that you were writing it down there. I didn't mean to have you write that down. I just wanted to have the 2 points in the business areas, business district creation, business support. So the business, vitalize core commercial areas, but the way we go down these paths.
Yeah.
And number 3, I'm fine with. I had that exactly the same way written down. Number 4, I had a little bit different: general infrastructure replacement and parks open space revitalization. And those were separate because, infrastructure like City Hall needs to be fixed. So, our roads are good. Our roads are continuously being updated, but there's infrastructure that needs to be updated. We want to look at that. And then, of course, for me, number 4, or number 5 here, maintain a high level of public safety. I think we need to really separate that out, because our police department has done great jobs where we've come from in the last few years. So we need to support those ongoing operations and that direction that's been going. But the fire department needs to be separated out in this overall strategy as fire department focus, or fire department. I think fire department focus is the best way to put it.
Okay, so I'm hearing what you're saying, but again, I'm thinking that you're already into the next level down in detail here on the plan. Like, we could have an overarching goal of maintain a high level of public safety and then have specific strategies around. FD.
And I say that because I don't understand what high level of public safety means. To me, that's like, okay, well, who wants what I said earlier last week is like, I always taking the opposite of, well, do you want a low level, a medium level? Like, everyone's high level, right? But what are you really attacking? What are you trying to do here? So if we just specifically say, the fire department is and maintain the police, so that we don't, within the small below items, doesn't get even wonkier.
I do hear you. Okay.
Yeah.
So let me keep on soliciting input on this framework of goals. Again, I'm just trying to suggest a way for us to get into the further details of opportunities and strategies. So Todd, what are your thoughts about this time period as well as this structure?
Yeah, I would agree with the mayor and Nels about the 3 to 5 years. The 3 years, because of the council turnover, none of us will be here probably in 10 years other than maybe Mr. Wodzansky and staff. But 3 years is measurable, and 3 to 5 years is measurable. It's tangible. People can see it. 10 years is 2032. It's a long way away. So I would keep it at that. I think I like this framework a lot. The one thing that I'm a little bit confused about is you have improved efficiency within the communications goal. And I think personally, efficiency goes to its own goal, and that is make the city run efficiently, whether it's through budgeting, through public safety, through whatever things we need to look at. And I don't know what the best way to say is do more with less. I mean, I don't know what the best way is of doing it, of saying it, but But efficiency is in a time where we have lots of challenges financially is very, very important. And I think as a goal, that helps us deliver more services without raising taxes.
So you would frame a separate goal, like focus on improving the efficiency of city government.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
whether it's processes or whatever it might be, I guess we can get into that as we get more detail. But I'm fine with this. When you have an improving efficiency in the top, I'm not sure what that means. Improving our external communication efficiency or internal, or is it just lumped in there?
The reason I had internal in there was it was really a shout out to efficiency. It was a shout out to breaking down silos, improving coordination between city departments and expediting changes to make it more efficient. So that's where I had parked it, but I hear your argument for making it a separate goal.
Okay. And the question is, do we want to have that? Do we want to have the words internal and external, or just modernize the city's communications, then in parentheses, internal and external?
And we can certainly, depending upon whether we have agreement on having a separate goal for improving efficiency, we could just have modernize the city's communications and put that separately as a parenthetical.
But otherwise, I think it pretty much accommodates everything that cities do. Many cities do, most cities do, and have control over it.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Horvath, what do you think?
Eric, I like your reframing. To Todd's point, I think you could, it just depends on whether you want to lump it into one or separate it out as a number 6. But I think what he's getting at is maybe if you just added the word operations and before communications, right? Because really, it's not just about our communications out, which is absolutely important. And it's something that a city needs to do, especially to be fully transparent and to gather public input. But to the point, a lot of those things about improving efficiency coordination speaks to the silos comment that was made before. It speaks to the way we function as an operation in general. And times are changing. And so, I think COVID presented us with opportunities to relook at the way we do things. This council's talked about modernizing certain internal operations that then makes us more efficient. So I don't feel strongly one way or the other if operations should be broken out at the top point, or if you can combine it with communications, because they all kind of interweave, right? And I don't mind the internal and external, because a city like ours, we clearly have, to the point that was made before about silos, we do have internal communication issues at times, and then we also communicate externally. From an operations standpoint, we do things internally and we contract out externally. So those two words are not triggering for me personally. In general, I do like keeping, to the point of your reframing, I like keeping it simple. When we talk about these as 3 to 5 year goals, they're just, to me, they're the high level 30,000 foot view, right? And so it doesn't matter if it's 3, 5, 10, right? The language is supposed to encapsulate all the surgical maneuvers that we're going to try to accomplish in a 6 month, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year period, right? And it's just a matter of us being able, staff really being able to kind of juggle how do we accomplish the most we can in the shortest amount of time, and then what are the strategies and goals to hit the longer range things that we would like to accomplish. So I think these are flexible enough for any future iteration of the council to work with. That's it.
And Councilmember, I would just say one more thing, which is that in my experience, at this level of the goals, this is one of the public-facing documents that you'd want to have be widely available to your citizens and residents and businesses. And they want to see a very simple framework of goals and then understand that's the, to use an overused word in strategic planning, those are the North Stars you're aiming for. Now, elsewhere in the plan, you see the details of how the city is going to get there.
Correct. And the language has to be simple enough for, the lowest common denominator to really grasp it, understand it, and then be able to dig deeper and look at those, itemized list of like what falls under there. So I agree with you.
Councilmember Obaji, what is your thinking?
I'm good with this framework. I would just add to number 2 at the beginning, rebrand the city as I don't know the exact verbiage for it, but rebrand the city as a business-friendly place to do, to succeed in business, as a place to succeed in business, and thereby vitalize the core commercial areas.
So you would make this goal, you would frame this goal about, this is where I think a goal is the end state you're trying to achieve. The strategy of how you're trying to get there is a strategy. And so rebranding the city as a business-friendly place, to me as a planner, feels like a strategy to achieve the goal of vitalizing the core commercial areas.
I suppose, yeah. I suppose that is, yeah.
So I would just say, just with all due respect, that
oh, that's fine.
That this could be a place which we can put in parentheses. This is where you want to rebrand the city as business attractive, business friendly. But that might very well be a really, important initiative or objective to put beneath this goal.
Got it. Cool. Yeah. Otherwise, that's good. Thanks.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you. Thank you. And Councilmember MD, what are your thoughts about this?
I kind of agree with Mr. Obaji. I mean, your goal is to become known as a business-friendly city. That's the goal. How you do that is you can vitalize the core commercial areas. You can become more efficient in how we support those brand new businesses along the lines of of a business concierge idea, or if you're making the planning department and the other departments that the economic development department more, they kind of handhold people on how they can open up a business here. So I think the goal is to rebrand us as a business-friendly community, because right now we are not considered a business-friendly community. But we can do it your way. That's fine too.
Let me ask you this question, Council Member. So we have branding up here as well, and I know that from conversations with many of you that branding is on your minds, and it's not just branding as a business-friendly city, it's also branding the city in other ways and the things that the city is attractive, the ways that the city is attractive to tourism, attractive to workers who you want to attract to the city. The things we've talked about all involve branding of the city. So if you're going to limit the branding to just one aspect of branding, like a business-friendly city, by making that a goal, then you've very narrowcast your branding. If you want to say that branding and rebranding of the city is an important goal, I certainly get that. But I think it's maybe larger than just business friendly based on the context with which I've heard you speak already tonight.
Okay.
So I would just perhaps say that maybe if we were to break this into two, where focus on improving the efficiency of the city government were one, and then we're the sixth goal, then perhaps this first goal could be about modernizing the city's external communications, or rebranding the city, or refocusing the city. Rebranding is really kind of what I think many of you are talking about up here in terms of how you want the city to be perceived by the public. So let me ask General Manager Wisniewski, just kind of he's heard this conversation, kind of how he reacts to this framework of goals and what his thinking is.
Yeah, Eric, I had your same with regards to the concept of branding. I do think, because I've also heard many of the same suggestions from council, that we want to maybe revisit our entire brand, right? The More to See brand is maybe stale in many of our members' eyes, and we need to revisit that. And that exercise, having lived through that, it entails a lot of analysis, and it does go into several areas. I mean, it talks about what we're doing with businesses. What are we doing with visitors? What are we doing with our own residents? Are we truly providing a brand that our residents are proud of, and that we think is emblematic of sort of the core of the community? And so that in itself, to me, I could certainly see, and there's going to be a series of milestones if we embark on a rebranding effort. But that is a real objective, or a series of objectives that to me all feel like they are part of us updating how we communicate with the community and how we are perceived by the community. So I feel like under the current goal as written, modernize the city's communications, whether we do internal and external or not. But if we simply say modernize the city's communications, I could easily see us over the next few years having a series of rebranding initiatives that speak to that effort. And that said, I think we can, as a separate goal underneath vitalizing our core commercial areas, we could target more specific messaging to help help energize the vitalization effort. So I don't see us necessarily having to completely separate, completely amalgamate these two concepts. I mean, we could talk about what our business-friendly message is, what our city brand is, if you will, as it relates to being business-friendly. I think that all can still flow under two, but I'm hearing, I think, a bigger branding initiative that has to come as part of the communications effort, I think, as well. I appreciate that. Like, modernize the city's communications, to me, is very understandable. I know what that means. I think that, to me, implicitly is about how we communicate to each other, with each other, how we gather information, then how we disseminate information, how we facilitate dialogue with our residents, how we solicit opinion. I've got in my head eight different objectives right off the top that I could see helping facilitate that goal if that's what the council desires. To Todd's point about operations and efficiency, there are a lot of ways we can take that. That could speak to new technologies, that can speak to service delivery, methodology changes, that could speak to just simple analysis on how efficient we are with our existing resources. It might even speak in some areas to us investing in new staff to create ROI, in different areas, whether it's in the arts or other places in the community. So I could see a bunch of objectives underneath a goal like that as well.
But I'm tempted based on your remarks, Mike, to maybe make this one, just as you suggested, focused really on modernizing the city's communications. Back to Councilmember Horvath's point, that's clear, it's easy to understand. This would be really about the external communications mainly, although it would recognize the need for internal coordination to make sure that that's a coherent set of external communications, right?
Right, which is why I like the phrasing realignment, because I think I understand what the council means by that. Because if for us to be effective as an external communicator, we have to make sure our narrative and our messaging is all on the same page. We can't have the community services department saying one thing and the public works department saying another, and then the city manager's office, having a message that's completely off point. That has to be coordinated. So I appreciate and understand what the council means by realign those public facing platforms. I very much view all of those as potentially being objectives underneath, though, that clear, to me, modernize the city's communications goal. That makes sense to me.
Now, do you think it makes sense, Mike, that there be a separate goal on improving operations or improving the efficiency of city government?
Yeah, it certainly can't hurt. I worry as we expand the number of goals, and we'll get more to this in objectives probably on Thursday, but I worry that we're going to end up biting off more than we can chew. We tend to populate these these goals with a fair amount of objectives. If we're going to extend the number of goals, we've got to make sure we're mindful of our limitations and that we don't go from a traditional 25 or 30 objectives to all of a sudden 35 or 40. We're going to have to, and I'm grateful for the recognition of limited staff resources that was mentioned earlier. We're going to have to be mindful of that as we go forward. So, but that said, an operations and efficiency goal, I think back to some of our previous plans, we would have, we'd have a financial kind of a fiscal efficiency goal. We've had iterations of that. And I think they're now with technology and the ability for us to kind of retool, in this kind of post-pandemic world with telecommuting capabilities and some of the new technologies we've implemented. Yeah, I think this is, this is a good time for this kind of conversation.
Well, my one concern on this one, having worked with many different public bodies, is the perception that it can create in the public's mind that we're not already efficient, that we're not already a smoothly operating machine. And so I think you just have to reckon when you have a goal like this with the potential question that it causes in people's minds. Well, gosh, well, how bad is it then? So I think you have to be careful then in the way you frame something like this so it doesn't leave that impression.
No, it's a good point, Eric. I mean, I think if you were to ask staff, most departments would tell you we feel pretty lean. You know, we've cut to the bone. I hear that phrase a lot from our folks over the last few years. We have been very austere, you know, and that was leading up to the pandemic. And now, and maybe when we really get into, maybe we want to talk a little bit about, maybe there's a way to enhance delivery of service through new technological and efficient means or something. Maybe there's a way where this isn't about, you know, this isn't about continuing to grind into what we already do, but it's about us expanding service without it bringing on a whole bunch of new expense, right? So maybe there's a more positive way to phrase this.
I like the way you just did it. Enhance the delivery of city services is one way to do that. My suggestion would be, so that we can keep this meeting moving tonight, is that we start with 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 and see if we need 6. Let's just sort of see how we're feeling. But I'd like to be able to start with modernizing the city's communications. Understand tonight kind of what some of your objectives are there in the 3 to 5 year time frame, vitalizing commercial areas of the city, and then we'll get as far as we can tonight, and then resume on Thursday. So we have a little bit more than 90 minutes, I think, until our stop time at 10 p.m. tonight, if I'm correct. So is that cool with everybody if we get into the actual generation of objectives under these first couple of goals tonight? Mayor, is that good with you?
Yeah, I think so, Eric. Yeah. Let's see how far we can get. And
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Get started.
Yeah. So I've got a blank strategic planning matrix here. You'll see that I've started to populate this with new goal language as well as updated dates. So you can see up here, City of Redondo Beach, 6-month strategic objectives, January 27th, that's today, 2022. Actually, that's Thursday, through July 27th, 2022. So if you follow this format, what we'll be doing now is we'd be looking at these goals as 3-year goals. Maybe we can say 3 to 5 year goals if you want. But we would then now start to entertain your ideas about what are the specific objectives, strategies, things you want to do under this heading.
And Eric, if I just one point of order to mention, I do think we had generally talked, and listen, the council can decide to extend this as long as they'd like. Generally, we had sort of advertised tonight being a 3-hour session, with Thursday also being a 3-hour session.
6 to 9, I misspoke.
Yeah, wrapping 6 to 9. We've got a good 45 minutes or so that I think it's still worth doing this, but the council, if they want to continue the effort beyond 9, certainly that's their prerogative. But I just, for posterity's sake, wanted to mention, I think we were generally looking.
Hey, I'm good to go till 10, so I don't know about you guys. I'm good to go till 10. It's Councilmember Horvath and Councilmember Obaji. Councilmember Horvath?
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to point out before we get into this is that we had a list of stuff at the last strategic planning session. I don't know if we've done some of those things. And so it'd be good to see, like, hey, what was already like on our list of things that we wanted to accomplish that we haven't gotten to, and use that as a starting point, because they should probably move up to the top of the level, to start off with, just food for thought.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a good point, because starting from scratch is kind of tough, because it's very helpful to see what we were working on and kind of build from that. I mean, we can start from scratch, but usually we have the old strategic plan available to see, as Councilmember Horvath said, what we've accomplished, what we haven't.
And I can show you the old plan if you like, and we can work off of that. But Councilmember Obaji, let me get your thought as well.
Sure. I mean, I was just raising my hands for 9, as in 9 p.m. because
9 p.m. Gotcha. 9 p.m. Thank you. Okay. Well, I hear you about the wanting to look at the old plan and making sure that anything that was not completed there gets sort of is the starting point here. Mike, do you have a thought about that?
We contemplate including it. We weren't sure if you wanted to start fresh or draw off some of the older work we've done. It really has been so long since we have conducted this process. A lot of the things that we had in the old plan have either migrated or matriculated into some kind of different item. We can certainly go through it. There's sort of two caveats to this. We had kind of created some sort of objectives you all discussed at the last session that we could also put up that might be a little more reflective of a contemporary kind of work program rather than going back to the last approved and adopted set of objectives. Because I think those are really not just October of 2020, but really they would have been put in place in April of 2020 and are now truly almost 2 years old. So we can show you, I've got the document that you the list of objectives that on a very holistic basis, we synthesized as part of the October discussion. If you need that as a point of reference, or we can go back to the last adopted plan. It's really your choice, or you could just try to start fresh. We can go either way for you.
And there's no reason we have to do either or. We can do both. And so my thought would be, since we already have some good ideas that are being surfaced already, Councilmember Narenheim, you had some good ideas already about what you would like to see with regard to the city's communications. Maybe I can start with you and just have you say, what would you like to see as 6-month objectives under this goal?
To get a new PIO position hired, and even probably more important than that, but maybe even before the hiring, but in tandem, the requirements of that PIO position, because we were all going to have some very distinct thoughts, which I think would be very different than what we want to see moving forward. Some sort of contract signed and movement forward for a new website, different social media platforms to let get information out.
You just want a new website, or you want a new website that does certain things?
A new website. Well, no, not a new website. A contract to start the rebuilding of the website that we currently have. That's going to take a year to rebuild. So and it could take a long time just to figure out how we're going to do this. So who we're going to even choose. So that's what I would want.
Councilmember, let me just pause on this one, if you can, on the website. So I'd like to hear other people's thoughts about this objective around the website. So who else has ideas about what you think needs to happen with regard to the website?
User friendly,
searchable.
It has to be a modern, website that is responsive, fluid for all different types of devices.
Appealing.
It has to have a good CMS background for staff to be able to update on a continual basis.
It has to be specific and customized to Redondo Beach.
A clear big button where people can submit their complaints or reports of concerns, which basically just links to the system, a good system we already have, the Comcast system, /Access Redondo.
Well, and to the points made by Sheila too, it has to have a very robust SEO plan behind it that is either separate from the website design itself, or so that from a search engine perspective, whether it's an internal search engine on the website or externally, that when somebody's searching for something that they want related to a city service, they're going to find what they want. So the navigation and the layout of the site is going to be key. But I mean, this is getting in the weeds into website design. I think to Nils's point, we had a conversation 2 months ago or 3 months ago with Granicus, and we just need to decide what are we doing moving forward. We need to find a partner, and we need to execute a contract within the next 6 months to get them moving, and ideally sooner than 6 months.
Eric, if I can also add that within the website, there should be council district pages where the council members can update what's new in their district, or what's new relative to the city affecting the district. Because right now, unless you are, I got a person's email address from the registrar, or they gave it to me. There's no way that people are going to find out what's new in the city unless they happen to come to my community meeting. But there should be a place where they can read the monthly update.
Yep. If I capture the key points that you all want to make about the qualities, the effects that the new website would have.
Well, compared to the existing website, we have the word that comes to mind, and the complaint I've heard from more people more and more is it needs to be simpler. I mean, people go to the website like there's everything under the sun on it, and they just get overwhelmed immediately trying to find what they're looking for. So,
and to that end, there should be a clear path for people who want to do business in Redondo. So a business button, so they know, okay, this is where you can get your business license. Here's where you can pull permits. Here's where you can figure out how many other commercial spaces are available in the city, like El Segundo has.
Councilmember MD, I know your hand has been up.
I think we need to hear from the people who would actually be doing this to figure out if this is even a 6-month possibility. What kind of funding are we putting behind that? And I'm not sure this is truly a 6-month strategic objective on that, unless it's just to make a plan to do it.
But the reason why I started this originally was I just want the contract signed within 6 months, and we're moving forward with a contract.
That makes sense.
Started months ago.
Okay, so that makes sense. I mean, because putting all this other stuff in there seems like it's a much bigger job than a 6-month strategic objective. And part of the reason why people have such frustration is back to the original point that we made during the SWOT analysis. We are truly a full service city, and it's very hard, I imagine, but the IT people who created the website can speak to that, to be able to anticipate what every single 77,000 people is coming to the website for, and to be able to know, and not everybody understands that trees would be under public works or but how would you describe public works? Everything that's not public safety. I mean, it's just, how do you describe what that would be to somebody who's, one of the 77,000 people? So, but searchable, I agree that searchable is by far the most lacking thing. So I'm constantly having to ask. I know that we talked about something on an agenda 4 months ago, and I try to put in the keywords to that agenda item in the agenda search page, and I can't ever find it. I've got to go back to the original person who created the report and say, okay, when did you present on such and such item, so I can go find the information on it. So the search feature is easier.
Thank you. So you make a good point that within 6 months, the website contract would be signed. These other things are just really characteristics that people have said tonight they want to see in it. So under the when and by whom, so this would be contract signed within 6 months. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, and maybe I would chime in here and say that there's going to sort of be two paths for this. There's going to be, and we're going to be bringing the Granicus item back here probably next month. And so we'll have two options. We'll have the contract amendment with Granicus to basically describe this scope of work and have them build a website that meets this criteria, or we're going to make a decision that we're not comfortable with Granicus, are going to be looking for a new vendor to help us execute a website that has been described here. That process, if we do embark on an RFP process to identify and select that new vendor, there is a possibility it would be difficult for us to have that contract executed by July 1st. But it's going to depend first on our comfort level with Granicus, which ultimately the council is going to have to make a determination on on effectively a thumbs up, thumbs down basis. So we could easily have that goal accomplished within 6 months if we end up selecting Granicus. If we don't, this could trail into more of a 9-month objective.
And Granicus is the current incumbent holder.
Yeah, they're our current vendor. They've got a new platform that we're effectively evaluating. The council's had a presentation on that, and they've directed a series of questions and have identified some concerns they'd like to see I think addressed, and then bring that back and then ultimately make that decision. So it's going to depend on the vendor that we choose here as to whether or not we'll have this done within 6 months. And I don't know, Chris, if I've misstated anything, let me know, but I'm pretty sure that's the answer.
No, that's accurate. I think what might help, I know that Granicus needs to come back and speak with council, but we at the last presentation in December, council really didn't get the opportunity to ask questions or delve into the Granicus website product and find out if Granicus could meet the needs that you're defining here on in this goal or objective. So maybe it's a matter of bringing Granicus back to actually let council dive into their current flagship CMS product, which is Open Cities, and you can make the determination if you feel that is going to work for you or not. If not, then it probably would be directing staff to go out to an RFP process to find out which website best fits current council needs. That will extend the project out quite a bit.
Can we just send Granicus this list right here?
We'll definitely raise these points with them. I think we have in various conversations, but we'll put a fine point on it. And their next presentation will either address all of these questions to your satisfaction or they won't, right?
Okay.
We'll embark on an RFP. If they do, then we'll finalize a deal with Granicus and we'll get to work. So,
Councilmember Lowenstein, I know your hand is up.
Sure. I was just going to say, it's kind of shooting low if all we want is the website contract signed by July. Don't we want requirements gathered by July? And don't we, or if it's a new vendor by October? Because if it's going to take another 6 months to gather all those requirements, it's going to take a really long time to do the website. So I'd leave it up to my colleagues to see how you feel about that.
We'd rather take it a long time and do a good job, right, than not take a long time, rush into it, and end up with another crap website.
Well, look, I think the day we can give it is when is Granicus coming back? By when?
We could put that by the first meeting in March.
There you go. There's your date. There's your first milestone. Once we talk to them, a lot of this other stuff falls into place.
Right. Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
So, Mayor, was that your hand up to make that point?
Yeah, I'm trying to move things along. We'll be here all night and beyond. It's good stuff. It's great input. It's fantastic, but I don't know if we want to get too much. We could have just said, get Granicus back here and let's get him here by then, and we'll give him all our input and we'll all keep trucking. So it's easy to say that now that we've listened to everybody, but you know what I'm saying.
Councilmember Horvath, is your hand up relevant to this point here?
Yeah. I was just going to say, to Todd's point, right, we can be doing that in parallel, right? We can be, as we're trying to explore a potential contract, we can be making a list of all the things and the bells and the whistles and whatnot that we want. And then that would get incorporated into that process. I think, though, I just want to point out these two things here in a 6-month period is kind of a big lift. And the reason why I say that is because whether it's a person who is a standalone PIO or it's one of Mike's, new hires in his department functioning as that, they are hopefully going to develop a strategy. And, I think, for us to come up with like a list of other things right now, I think it'd be interesting to kind of develop that in coordination with whoever he brings on in that position and see what they're bringing to the table in terms of recommending how that we accomplish some of our longer range communication goals.
Mike, let me ask you about your timing for the new PIO position.
So that's what I was going to ask Councilman Ehrenheim, if he's thinking about this being totally new position or one that has already been contemplated in my hiring of the 2 assistant twos? Because the assistant to the city manager position, I can't make this public yet, but I'm already extending an offer for the person who's going to sit in that role largely. It's not done yet, but I will have that position and the other position probably filled and have both bodies in place by March 1st. But I'm not sure that's what Nils is referring to. If he's talking about perhaps a dedicated, solely standalone dedicated PI, that's something beyond kind of what we've contemplated in the 2 assistant 2 positions.
Well, the direction I was going with it was both what you said and the more so the requirements of the 2 positions. Like a PIO is more so just everyone knows what PIO is. So we need to refocus, or everyone. All this communication issues really comes down to the idea that there's multiple ways things are happening. It all needs to go through one person or one department, and one person needs to go back on the other side.
Can I make a suggestion, I think, on how to maybe meet your goal here? From an objective standpoint, what I see this individual needing to do, and both of the 2 new individuals working in tandem to execute, is really a revisiting of the city's communications plan. And it's really the communications plan that I think we need to develop and update that is reflective of the new platforms, the new approach, the realignment, the new branding, and it could be quite large. But I think what you're really targeting is a broader policy discussion about how we tackle this communications issue.
Right.
It's really not the hiring itself. It's really what it is, that what formats, what platforms, how are we going to go about this?
Right.
And Christian's absolutely right. I'm going to need to be reliant on this individual and the other on the technology side to kind of help craft that and update that, along with all of our other department heads as well. So maybe I think to meet your goal, we can create an objective regarding an update of the city's plan and stay out of the hiring issue, because candidly, that's going to be done before we even adopt this thing on the 8th. We're happy to put it in there and take credit for it.
Well, that's fine. I don't mean to have it in there hired and recruitment hired and done. It's positioning. It's the position with the communication that needs to happen from that position.
It's kind of it's the policy. It's the policy consideration that you're really thinking of. How the action, and that won't be the individual. It'll be the planning document that ultimately you all would touch. The communications plan. And so that's how I would suggest we try to bring it into the policy sphere.
So am I catching the language correctly here then? Update the city's communication plan. This would include rebranding, communications platforms, use of social media.
It would. The execution of the rebranding effort's going to take longer than 6 months, but it could touch on, the plan could theoretically touch on how the brand fits in with these other concepts. But brand alignment, maybe that's how you would phrase that. Brand alignment, communications platform, social media. It's also surveying, input, two-way communication, sort of a dialoguing function. I mean, there's all kinds of things that I think go into this plan. And don't misunderstand me. I'm not going to have us just wait around for the planning document to be approved before we do anything. We're going to implement obvious things that are going to improve our communications while we also update this document to allow you all to kind of contemplate it from a policy standpoint. But I think that's more of the policy objective here rather than the hiring.
Mike, are you the one responsible for doing this?
Yeah, it would be me and ultimately the new assistant to the city manager.
One ACM?
Well, to be fair, assistant to the city manager, not that. ACM typically means assistant city manager in our world.
Gotcha.
There you go.
And then is this a 6-month goal? Is this a 3-month objective? Is this a plan?
I think what we would probably say here, to be fair, if we're going to do it within 6 months, it's probably at a report on the city's communications plan, and kind of it's a discussion item. So I don't know if it would be, I don't know if we would complete the update per se, but I think we would have our first discussion about, what elements of the plan to begin to modernize. So maybe it's, yeah.
Is that what it is? Is updating the council on the city's communication planning?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to capture what ultimately Nils would like to see here. I mean, I'd like to hear from him if this is fitting that goal, but
I think what I heard Nils say is he wants the plan. He wants the plan up and running and.
No, not up and running. We need to update the city's communications plan from the different platforms, creating new platforms, using new platforms, two-way communications, you're right, brand alignment with what Councilmember Obaji was saying regarding, and Mike Wazansky was saying regarding, get rid of the more to see. So have that plan in place in 6 months so we can start working on it.
Yeah, and maybe we'll end up, maybe we'll have multiple updates and we'll get you what we can in 6 months, and then we have to continue to delve into stuff. But also in here, Eric, I think surveying, input gathering, public input gathering, those are big parts of this. Those are helpful. We're missing many of these pieces right now.
Am I capturing this in a way that makes sense to people? Update the city's communications plan, including brand alignment, different communications platforms, social media, two-way communications, surveying, and public input gathering. Does that all make sense to everybody? I see thumbs up. Everybody cool with that?
That does to me.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then Nils, Councilmember Nierenheim, I'm assuming you're okay then with dropping the PIO being hired as an objective here?
It wasn't necessarily having the position of PIO behind, because it's having someone there next to in Wazansky's office there, ability to execute, new communication to the public. So it's fine. Yeah, we don't have to put that in there. Move on.
Let's talk about the rebranding for a second, because I see the updating the city's communications plan, but does there need to be a specific objective around just developing the city's new brand? We've talked about that extensively this evening.
Yeah, we do need to do that, right? We need to figure out whether we're going to just borrow what tourism is, what the tourism board is doing, or if we're gonna go with a different angle. But more to see just doesn't cut it, I don't think, for anybody. So
is that, council members, is that basically the objective, is to develop and refresh the city's brand, or refresh the city's brand?
Yeah, I think what the tourism board's doing is what, one second, I'll pull it up, is Classic California Instant Local. I'm not sure that that's what the city needs to pick up, but something that really captures, we've got a diverse, vibrant community with people who are earning an average median income of, I think, $100,000 or more. And we have 66,000 people or so in 6 square miles. And we have coastal area, we have a little inland area. We have all sorts of densities. We've got R1s, R2s, R3s. Right? So we've got a lot of smart folks who work for the defense industry.
So let's assume that this is, Mike, again to you, this is probably a contract you guys would be letting to have this work be done.
Yeah, I think the full brand exercise is to do it right. There's a series of public engagements. There's input gathering. There's polling. There's a lot of different things. So it would probably be the first step would be to, I think, identify what resource we would need to basically facilitate that process. And ideally, we would procure that, identify and procure the resources needed to facilitate the rebranding effort is what I think could probably accomplish within the next 6 months. And maybe even procure. I mean, it's
Can we say that within 6 months?
it's a big lift. I guess it's going to depend on how many other things we put on this list ultimately, but yeah, it's possible.
Are you okay if I just put it there for now?
Yeah.
This would be by July 27th, 2022, right?
Yeah, which would be the end of the planning cycle.
This would be on your watch as well.
Yeah, same CM and new assistant to the CM, really.
I hear you already feeling overloaded here, Mike.
No, I just
we'll try to take the lift off of you here.
It's all good. These are important things.
So what else belongs in this list? I'm looking at the previous year's plan, and for example, I know that broadband was something that is of interest to the council. Broadband was up under this goal in the previous plan. Is broadband something that the council members are interested in pursuing in this next cycle?
Yeah, but I think it falls more under the infrastructure, not the modernized communications.
Okay. What else belongs here, if anything?
And Eric, can I just make a comment on branding?
Sure.
And I'm just speaking as somebody who's done this for most of my adult life. I don't know, if nobody likes more to see, it's just a tagline that's on a logo. You remove it. I think doing a complete rebranding effort is an undertaking in general for any business or entity in general. And I think one of the things that has been expressed in the course of this meeting is wanting to deliver services or change things, and whether it's the Muni code or whatnot, that then creates the ability to say, hey, we are business friendly, or we are this and we have that. And as you start to unfurl, both number 2 and number 3 there, right, it leads to kind of an organic effort to recommunicate, not necessarily rebrand, but recommunicate about what it is, who we are foundationally, what we are providing, and what the opportunity is for businesses or whatnot here in the community. Sticking a new logo on it, putting a new hashtag or a phrase underneath it, that doesn't necessarily fix the other things that everybody's talking about here, right? So just food for thought is all I'm saying,
Okay. So, noting the hour is 10 minutes of 9 or 13 minutes of 9. I know that there may be some more public comment, Mayor, that we want to do before the end of this meeting. I'm wondering if this might be a judicious moment to sort of pause and do that.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea, Eric. If anybody, there may not be any public comment right now, but is there any, Vicky? Yeah.
We do have 5 participants still online with us, but they have not raised their hands. They have an opportunity to do so now. Also, there are no new e-comments submitted.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, let's keep moving.
Okay, well, let me go back to sharing that same document then. Are there other things that rise to the top of people's minds for this category, this goal? So, Councilmember Lowenstein.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm trying to find the best way to phrase this. A lot of what we talked about is external communication, but internally, I think we're lacking as a city. Like, for example, a lot of places I've worked at have had either intranets or now something called project management or Jira software. One of the brands they use is Jira. So it's like an internal database of everything that's happening within the company or organization. So, for example, and Mike and I, we talked about this, a list of capital projects, their timelines, where they're at, a list of budgeting departments, categories, where we're at, pro forma. I don't even know how to find the list of people in the city in terms of who to talk to. I know we have Outlook and communications, but I mean, I don't even have a list of extensions of people to contact. It's severely lacking. It's a huge project, but it's something that has to happen I think over the next year or two. We need to be able, as council members, to know where things are at rather than to call up Ted or call up you or call up Jennifer or call up anybody else. We need information sharing, and we do, honestly, because of budget cuts, a poor job of it. And so I don't know what the best way to put it is. Maybe
you're talking about a directory?
No, not just a directory of who's listed where. I'm talking about like a dashboard where, all this information that are really important for us operating, what our budget is, how are we over our budget, are we under our budget? I mean, there's software out there that does all this stuff, project management type stuff. Where are we at with repaving a borough? Where are we at with the playground being done at Dominguez Park? I mean, all these things, I think we do a poor job of communicating internally on where things are at.
Yeah, the users of this council member would be yourselves, other city staff. It would be entirely internal users, though. Am I correct in understanding that?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
This is not external; it's internal solely.
Yeah, and I think Eric and Todd and I've had this conversation before. We have a SharePoint. We have an intranet that staff are very accustomed to using. This is where our teams things are incur, and we have internal engagement portals. But to Todd's point, I think in particular, what we don't have really inside of that is the kind of dashboard, kind of project status listing that I think would be helpful. So I think
budget too, Mike.
Yeah, and budget as well, and that routine kind of budget delivery. So what we probably would need to do first, Eric, I think is that is the goal. But the objective within that first 6-month time frame is probably
aggressive.
Yeah, it's really kind of accounting for the deficiency, identifying the true deficiency, and then really identifying the kind of software technology that might solve that problem, right, on an interface basis. And I think we need to sort of, it might be a report back to council on possible solutions. Maybe that's what we could commit to doing within that 6-month period. We're in the process of replacing our capital projects manager, Brad Lindahl, who's been with us for many years. One of the new initiatives, Ted and I have talked about this with the new capital projects manager, and working in concert with the new assistant to the city manager, who's kind of focused on technology, will be to identify this type of dashboard software product that Todd is referring to. So we should have the 2 individuals dedicated with this task on board here very soon. But I think, we could probably commit to just that, identify the gaps and really talk about potential solutions as kind of a generic report back to council. Because some of it might have cost implications, some of it might have staff resource implication as well. So, but it is a need.
This
Could I ask, sorry to bother you, could we do it before the budget? Because this, like you said, it could have budget implications. So budget, it's July 1st is when it's due, Eric.
And maybe put that by June 1. So really or maybe, I guess by July 1's good, because then we'll present it to you, maybe even in the form of a budget response report. We'll see. It'll be something that can give you an opportunity to act on.
And this would this be again IT's job, or would it be whose job?
No, this will be a team effort, really. This will be probably capital projects manager, public works capital projects manager, and new assistant to the city manager, and IT. It's a team. It'll be a teamwork.
Huge thing.
Yeah, it's huge. And it really will affect everybody, particularly when you get into finance. We start to look at those modules that will draw them in as well. And then the second item, Eric, up above the website contract, that's also going to involve, it won't just be Chris and his staff. There'll be some support from our office as well here.
So this would be the new assistant to the CM.
Yeah.
Okay, well, did that get that on the table, council member, that you in the way you wanted to? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Everybody okay with this one? Anybody have any objections to what we just included here?
No, I think Todd hit it on the head here. And I think that this is good for all our departments, to go back to Laura's comment about silos earlier, right? Like, if everybody knows what everybody's doing or where a project is at any given time, then we can see where are the cracks, why is something, where is it getting hung up, and I think one thing Todd didn't mention is that maybe council would have access to that dashboard as well, because that would create more communication or an ease of communication between staff and council, so that we don't have to ask at the end of a, night during referrals, hey, what's up with this project? We'd be able to just kind of check in on it and then have private conversations, to ensure that things that we have set as goals are moving forward. So yeah, I think it's a great asset that we could bring into operations.
Councilmember Obaji.
I forgot what it was up for, so I'll take my hand down. Sorry.
Okay, you didn't have a new objective to add here, I'm assuming.
Not at 8:56.
So here we are at 8:56, as you say, and I think with this being our 4 minutes to the 9 o'clock, Mayor Brand, that perhaps this would be the time to call a halt for the evening's festivities.
Sure. Yeah, we actually kind of covered a lot of ground, especially all the accomplishments we had. So yeah, come next time, you guys look closely at, I guess get an idea of, based on the outline that we created, and I guess you can share that with us, Eric.
I'm going to email that out to you tonight so you have it, and you'll have the things we did tonight all in your hands by 15 minutes from now. So yeah, please come prepared Thursday to rock and roll.
The public comment was great. I would encourage any public comment to also be in an email so that we can look at it and continue to refer to it instead of just simply listening to you, although we take notes and we can do that as well. So it's helpful because some of the comments we got today were quite lengthy and had, like 6 objectives for us. And it's much better to have that all in an email so that we can track that. So with that though, yeah, thanks, Eric. I think it's a great start. Come prepared next time with more specifics as we get into the meat and potatoes of all this. So, yeah, that last one was a little bit long and painful, but it was extremely important. And I think we needed to think it through out loud because it's complicated and it's definitely important. Okay. I don't have an agenda in front of me, folks, but I think maybe we'll just entertain a motion to adjourn unless I'm missing something.
Move to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion to adjourn by Councilmember Albaji, second by Councilmember Nairnheim. Any objections? Okay, we are adjourned, folks, and we will see you Thursday at 6 o'clock.